biggest embassy in Europe, if approved, if Starmer bows down to Beijing, as these protesters are saying. Behind me you can see nobody wants this.
No repression at borders! We know that we have to stand up to the abuses of China. And what worries me is that we have a government right now that seems to be scared of China.
What are you doing here at the protest? That's an interesting sign you've got there. Clearly you're not a fan of our Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Why is that?
He's kowtowing to the Chinese government, right? A dictator regime.
Robert Jenrick defected to Reform yesterday. He called the Conservative Party and Kemi Badenoch a leader with no backbone. She's obviously shown up here today and done a speech. It's kind of unprecedented to have that sort of flagrant support. What did you think about her speech and her backing this?
I think any party backing our cause, like going against the building of the embassy, I'd say we welcome them.
Why are you here today?
So I'm Tibetan and I'm here to oppose the Chinese mega embassy being built here. Unfortunately, we think the UK government might allow this to happen, and I think it sends the wrong message to people who have been oppressed by the Chinese government, who are still being continuously oppressed in free countries. There are lots of Chinese decisions which are being followed by Chinese police states.
Now, we know that there are plainclothes Chinese policemen potentially in the crowd, so a lot of them want to stay anonymous, which is very understandable. Why are you here today?
Because it's very simple. It's no mega embassy, and it is absolutely unacceptable because this is a very peak area, and I don't think any one of the country they will have choose one of the peak area, prime area, and make it to their one of the I think it's the biggest embassy in Europe. So this is
across the UK on DAB+. On YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Just after 6 o'clock, it is Thursday. It's the 5th of February, and welcome along to Talk Breakfast. It is the home of common sense. It's where you come, the nation comes to talk. It's all about alarm clock Brits, and I want to say a massive thank you. It was audience results day yesterday, and more of you are listening than ever before to Talk. Really, really appreciate your support. Whatever you're doing this morning, I guess on your way to work, stuck in a queue, trying to get the kids ready for school. I don't know, coming back from a night shift. We're delighted to have you here. As ever, in terms of the news, your part in that, 0344 499 1000. It's the only number you need, 0344 499 1000. G-Spot, well, Damien, we call him G-Spot because we can never find him. He'll take your calls. Christian, blue jumper today. He'll take your voice notes, and you can text us throughout the show, 87222. Before I get into it, we're reeling here. Dodgy Dave, who's here with his stick. He's our sort of new button man. Some shocking news last night, and this is genuinely true. He found his name in the Epstein files, David Rhodes. So I'm now working with a man associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Right, 3 minutes past 6. You are waking up. I mean, listen, I would love to talk about something new, but I can't. When the Guardian newspaper, which I don't like holding up at all, says it's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs, amid fury over Peter Mandelson. He is undoubtedly fighting for his political future this morning. Finally, Kemi Badenoch just kept at him. How much did you know? How much did you know when you made Mandelson US ambassador, right? Did you? Eventually, right, he gave way. Have a listen.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister?
Yes, it did.
That's all I need to tell you. And I have to say, Quentin Letts on the front of I mean, I think this is a genius piece of writing, by the way. I'm a big fan of Quentin Letts. Punctured perhaps beyond repair Sakir deflated before our eyes. Kemi bayoneting from the Labour MPs. A cold, sinister silence. And what happened next? I don't know if you caught it. Up jumped Angela Rayner with a supposed war chest, stabbing him in the back. She forced him into basically saying that these files, he wanted to say, oh, let my people decide which files we make public. And the MPs went, no. The guy's a convicted paedophile and a cabinet minister stands accused of handing out state secrets. And fair play to our Ange, I'm sure she's got motivation behind this. She forced a complete climb down by number 10. Now the Intelligence and Security Committee will vet all of the documents. And to be honest, you have Labour MPs in their droves now saying it is merely a matter of time. This morning here at Talk, we're on resignation watch, not for ourselves, because we had fantastic audience figures, thank you, but for Labour MPs, cabinet ministers perhaps. You remember what happened with Bojo? One goes, another one goes, and the whole house falls down. God, it's exciting. Meanwhile, vile Andrew, listen again, somebody said to me, I think you're being a bit unfair to Andrew. Am I? Revolting on front of the sun, both of them, to be honest. Andrew, of course, exiled to the Sandringham estate of his brother King Charles in the dead of night on Monday. Basically, half of the staff in Sandringham have decided to go on strike because they refuse to have anything to do with him. There are more emails as well that... And this will put you... I hope you have not eaten your breakfast. Andrew and Epstein asked for an exotic dancer to do a threesome. A micro-penis, a royal prince and an exotic dancer. What a thought that is. Loads to talk about this morning. We'll also talk about Lucy Connolly. Her racial hatred charge was fast-tracked by that strange individual, Lord Hermer. Schoolgirls banned from wearing skirts in the name of equality. God. And Alton Towers bans theme park goers with ADHD and anxiety from using a disability pass to avoid queues. Got a bit of a story about that. 6:07. We'll say a very good morning to a man who always puts a spring in my step and makes me want my hat to be at a jaunty angle. Good morning, Charlie Rowley.
Good morning, Jeremy.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Can we cut to the chase, early risers? And I hate people that do that early rise. Anyway, Charlie Rowley has been on a stag do to Berlin.
I have.
This is brilliant, man.
And I've been there and I've come back.
You came back.
I've lived to tell the tale.
Was it good?
It was very good. Great
I just
fun.
don't see you drinking 20 pints and sitting in a nightclub of disrepute.
Well, it was for my sister's fiancé, so the guy is going to be my brother-in-law. It was good to see a different side of him.
Did you see a different side of him?
I did.
Did you tell your sister?
Many sides.
Did you tell your sister?
No, what happens in Berlin stays in Berlin.
Fantastic, we love it. Charlie, in all your time as a political commentator and before that as somebody who worked in politics, I read the front of a newspaper today that said that this could get as serious as the Profumo affair that brought down a government. Mandelson, the basic raw headline, allegedly giving out state secrets to a convicted paedophile who might or might not have made money. It doesn't get worse than this, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it puts eating a bit of cake into perspective. I think a lot of people that were sort of, whatever you thought about Boris now or even back then, I think the idea that, we've now got someone who was appointed ambassador to the US, a political appointment.
Yep.
So there's nowhere to hide for this Prime Minister. It wasn't a civil service appointment that he can sort of blame the process, blame someone else. He took the decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as US ambassador. And not only are we finding out a lot more about that relationship, but the idea that during government, during Mandelson's time in government previously, he was leaking market-sensitive information, which police are looking into, is a complete. What do you want to call it?
That's treason in my
treason.
mind. And I was quite vociferous yesterday, and a couple of old Labour peers didn't like what I said. I think he will go to jail. I think he has been getting away with his duplicitous, manipulative behaviour for years, but it does, again, and I know this is ongoing, gang, and if you want to talk about something else, let me know. It does beg the question, right? And I put it yesterday to Poppy Coburn, I'll put it to you. How much crap must he have on people in Labour? This man has been sacked for fraudulent loans, he's been sacked for giving passports to dodgy businessmen. It is unbelievable. He bought an £8 million house in Notting Hill, and yet at the same time his husband, 24-year-old Ronaldo or whatever, was taking 10 grand off Jeffrey Epstein for an osteopath a course. It's ridiculous, man.
It totally. And look, I don't want to trigger anyone this morning or belittle relationships that have gone sour, but it is like being in. If you are, if you know Peter Manson, it's a bit like being in a domestic abuse relationship. You know, how many times do you need to be to see the light, to see that this man has constantly lied, constantly covered up, manipulated the truth, who, as you say, you know, payments going into his bank account, into his husband's bank account, but no recollection.
No recollection of £75,000 going into your account. What does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly, totally. And you know, the idea that he was able to operate in the way that he was, the idea that officials either didn't know or were too scared to say, the idea that journalists have been silenced because of the threats that came.
Can I bring you up on this, right, without naming names, because I wouldn't do that, but Christian, I know, and I were talking about this yesterday. There were a couple of people I spoke to yesterday without naming names, and people that we saw in the office without naming names, who blatantly still, I'm not saying made any excuse for his lurid behaviour, but came out with lines like, well, he's never lied to me, or you know, he's done an awful lot of good. I had a Labour peer on that I had to get rid of because I thought I was going to headbutt the desk, who said, well, I mean, he's never lied to me, he's been a very good man. This guy is a piece of work who should languish in prison without any shadow of a doubt. And yet you've still got journalists, and I guess some of the chattering classes, that would defend him. And that does bring me back the whole goddamn time to, what? Does he know where the bodies are, man? There's just got to be something.
I think that's absolutely right. And look, I would not be surprised if those people that can't bring themselves to be honest and upfront and see the wood through the trees, which is that this man has, you know, as you say, done awful things, complete betrayal.
Betrayal's a really good word.
The British public. Absolutely. And so the people that can't see that have obviously enjoyed Peter's company in the same way, not accusing Peter Mandelson of being a paedophile, obviously, but the way in which Peter Mandelson enjoyed the luxuries, the lifestyle, the financing of Jeffrey Epstein. These people have clearly enjoyed the power, the gossip.
Well, let's bring it back to the person who's supposed to have the most power in this country, which is the Prime Minister. I mean, you heard it there. I'll keep playing it all morning. Pushed by Kemi, he eventually admitted that he knew that the guy had an intense relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. This is a man, Keir Starmer, who ignored security advice with the super embassy. Fact, said that yesterday and got told I was wrong by a Labour peer. Fact, MI5 security services warned Starmer. Are you telling me that they didn't? The reason I think there's a real furore about these papers is because I think there will be evidence in there that will say the security services told him. Let's say good morning to Paula. Morning, Paula.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Christian. Paula from London. Good morning. I just want to say, wow, yesterday P&Qs. Whoa, Kemi Badenhop did not let up. She is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to him. He needs to resign. I'm sorry, he has nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. The man is dead man walking, let's just say it, dead man walking. And yeah, wow. Have a great show, guys. I'm driving down the M25 in the rain. Have a good one.
Nice. And now she says to Christian, good morning. Obviously likes his jumper. Let's keep going back to Sean in Gloucester. So Keith Stalin has finally pushed his own party too far. About bloody time. My only hope is that he will call a general election out of spite. That's an interesting point. Tony Gannon, hi Jez. So two-tier Keir disregarded security service briefings on Lord Mandelson. Game absolutely over. Front of the Mail. Starmer in grave peril as Rayner twists the knife. Did you? I don't know if we've got the clip. She stood up looking very saintly in a purple dress, looking down and saying, I do think it would be important if, you know, this was not done by the government. It was done independently because of the victims. And I thought, oh, my God, you're on manoeuvres.
Oh, totally. I mean, look, there are two things here. And what Kemi was doing, first of all, is getting it on the record that, you know, it wasn't just tittle-tattle. It wasn't just in the papers that Peter Mandelson had a continued relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We sort of knew it. It had been reported, but, you know, Peter Mandelson was able to sort of play it down. What the Prime Minister received on his desk before he made that political appointment, it was
he made it. Let's make this again and again. He, Starmer, made that political decision.
Exactly. He had a DV clearance, that's the highest level of clearance that you can have in government, provided by security services. That made it clear and made it plain that Peter Mandelson, the man that the Prime Minister was about to send to the US, had a continued relationship with an internationally renowned paedophile, and the Prime Minister of this country said that that was okay. That is an error of judgment beyond belief, and that's what Kemi pinned him down on the record, and that's why so many Labour backbenchers were so incensed when you have a former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, who's complained about the Cabinet Office, the Cabinet Secretary not releasing, not investigating his claims and issues from 2025. So the idea that the Prime Minister can say, don't worry, the Cabinet Secretary will look into all of this, no. And that's why Angela Rayner, along with others, stood up to say this needs to be taken out of the government's hands, away from the civil service.
Did she do that because morally she thinks that, or did she do it for her own political ends?
I think it's fair to say, call me a cynic, that she was jumping on or leading a bandwagon where she obviously understands, I think, the mood of the Labour Party clearly better than the Prime Minister.
Front page of the Telegraph, it's everywhere. Rayner turns on Starmer, PM's authority in doubt after Labour rebels forced rapid about turn on Mandelson scandal. Can we just talk about the man, OK? I don't understand. I've made many mistakes in my life, but that's just... Is it bad judgment? Is it other forces? You have to think that unless you are, I don't mean this the wrong way, one of the most stupid people in the world. You're there, you're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and somebody says, do you think it'd be a good idea, McSweeney, to Peter Mandelson would be great. I know he's got a friendship with a convicted paedophile, but it'll be fine. Is there anybody with a brain cell that would not go, oh, hold on a second, there's a bit of a red flag there? And it brings me to Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. I thought, Christian said it yesterday, he will simply discard McSweeney and that will be how he escapes at this moment. He tied himself absolutely to Morgan McSweeney in the House of Commons by saying he's part of my team and I rely on him.
Absolutely. And look, it would be whatever the relationship between Keir Starmer and Morgan McSweeney. Obviously, Keir Starmer relies on him. He said in the House of Commons that he was, as you say, part of the senior team, the part of the team that changed the Labour Party, part of the team that got Labour into office in the first place. So he has full confidence in him. But, that's the easy thing to say if that's what you think. But politics isn't easy. It's about taking the hard decisions. Even if you have a personal friendship with your chief of staff or rate them on a personal level, there's been a complete fall of standards below the public, what the public expect.
I couldn't agree more.
And so he should be sacked if he has pushed Peter Mandelson into that job. But backbench Labour MPs were asking for Morgan McSweeney's head last night, and yet the Prime Minister, all he had to do was to say, OK, we're going to get rid of him. I'm sorry, Morgan, time's up, because you...
Do you think, we were talking about Resignation Watch when we came in, do you think this is the end? When the Guardian puts, and I hate picking this newspaper up, it's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs, on the front of the Guardian. We have to believe. Remember what happened with Boris Johnson? Cabinet ministers, it just folded like a pack of cards. Do you see that happening here?
I didn't yesterday morning, but I certainly do now, because to coin a phrase from Boris, when the herd moves, it moves.
That's true. Morning, Carl.
Morning, Jeremy. Carl here from Coventry. Yesterday, what a day! What a day that I've been waiting for the first time, listening to Starmer standing at Prime Minister question times and actually answering a question, and not only answering a question, but actually answering it truthfully and saying yes. I couldn't believe it. I had my earpiece in, walking around the factory with a smile on my face. And when I finished work, because I start at 6 and finish at 2:30, when I finished work, I went straight to a well-known supermarket. And I don't drink, but I brought myself, for the first time, a bottle of non-alcohol fizz. Couldn't believe it. Seen it there, and I thought, yep. And I've got it in the fridge, and I'm waiting for the inevitable bye-bye Starmer. And as soon as he's gone, I'm popping it. And I know it ain't going to do a lot, but I'm drinking the bottle. Amen. Hallelujah. Good morning, and God bless.
What a happy man, Carl in Coventry. Listen, loads of you. Paul and Hartlepool. Morning, Jez. You hit the nail on the head this morning. I watched PMQs yesterday. Kemi was brilliant, and when Stalin said yes, I realised, thank God it was over. He shot himself in the foot big time, and I agree with your earlier comments. One wonders when Mandelson will start squealing. That's a point, Charlie, because for somebody duplicitous, if he's going down, you think he's not taking anybody with him? I wouldn't give him the time of day. I reckon there'll be many people fearing what's coming out. You too?
Absolutely.
Not fearing, I don't mean that of you. There's nothing to come out about you. Nothing. There's no skeletons in Rowley's cupboard. I know. A couple of dresses. You like that?
On the weekend.
Yes, thank you.
But you're absolutely right. I think that's why you might even find people who are not gunning for Peter Mandelson or not seeing the wood through the trees because they still want to protect Peter Mandelson because he will, if he's not... depending on how the investigation ends up, he could still be a free man, and he'll want friends, and he'll try and use his friends through that way.
I think it's really interesting. A morning to Margaret in Birmingham. Morning, JK and the lovely Charlie. I think Starmer will cling on, sadly, and it will be Morgan McSweeney thrown under the bus. Starmer said he has confidence in him. He said that by many and got rid. She said the best part of yesterday was Rachel, whose face was on the floor. Try Botox, it works. Mark's in Croydon. Morning, Jez. With all that Starmer has done, I think the bigger question is why. I'm with Mark. If it's not stupidity, is it bloody deliberate? But then who benefits from his idiotic decisions? I think there's a real point where you go, how do you make such an inane bloody decision? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're totally right. And look, one of the other things here...
It's like self-sabotage in a way.
Totally. And look, let's go back to how Starmer's got to where he is. He claimed to be, as he was, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the most senior lawyer in the country.
The man who let Jimmy Savile off. Let's get there.
But he was the one that effectively prosecuted Boris Johnson for all of the COVID nonsense. He said he was going to do politics differently. They were going to be transparent. They were not going to be like the Tory party of the past, the sleaze, the scandals, all the rest of it. That is what you were getting with a Labour government. That's what you were getting with a Labour Prime Minister with Sir Keir Starmer at the helm. All we've seen there as a lawyer, someone that has obfuscated, appointed someone with a close friendship with a paedophile as ambassador of the United States that clearly sits around in number 10 with the arrogance to say to us as a public and general citizens, oh, well, they won't mind. We'll overlook that relationship. Peter will do a great job. Oh, we don't mind about, those pensioners when you take away the winter fuel allowance. They'll suffer. The farmers, oh, they're just moaning about, God knows what. We can tax them. Inheritance tax, not really a problem.
Does that come, though? This is my point, and I'm with you. There was a clip yesterday, you can see it on YouTube, a Labour peer, and he wouldn't listen. And I talked about waspy women and farmers and pensioners. No, the public understand he's done a great job abroad. Sod abroad, mate. Have a look at what's going on here. The arrogance, though, of this government, if it is arrogance with this huge majority, I think it's more, though. I'm not saying he's deliberate. He might be just completely incompatible to this job. He looked yesterday, for the first time to me, and I'm with you, he looked totally rattled. He started blinking, and I thought, yeah, you're on the way out, right? But there's many people in other political parties who'd be delighted if he stayed, because it's only going to end one way.
Totally, and that's the other thing. He started the year, you might remember, wanting to turn the corner, turn the page, talk about the cost of living. That's all he wanted to talk about. All now that Labour MPs will be wondering, and what the public will be wondering, is only after the Prime Minister confirming that he had advice that said that there was a link between Peter Mandelson, a close friendship between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein, we'll now want to see those papers. When the committee, the Intelligence Committee, release all the information and all of the conversation from officials in number 10, including Morgan McSweeney, how Peter Mandelson became appointed. That is all people want to talk about now. And that is what is going to be the albatross around this Prime Minister's neck, wherever he goes, on a visit to a hospital, to a school, to a local community centre, whatever it is, a pub, although he's barred from there probably. That's what everybody will want to talk about. And the government will be unable to function. It will be unable to...
I don't think it's functioned anyway. For anybody who thinks that we've been unfair, no, I think this is absolutely right. Loads of you responding. 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes. Text to 87222 this quickly as well. I like this from Brian. You've only got to look at the international press this morning, Jez. We are a complete, utter laughing stock, the UK in the eyes of the rest of the world with Starmer. It's absolutely ridiculous. This government needs to go and go now. Let's get someone in that can get a grip of this whole thing and drag us out of the hellhole this country is heading towards. Morning, Wayne.
Morning, Jezza. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. Morning, Charlie. Hope you had a good time and wasn't too naughty. Keep up the pressure on this little weedy man, Keith Starling. Let's get him, mate. Let's stop him destroying the country any further. The other question is, Jezza, who's next?
Yeah. Yeah, she has a point. She has a point. We have to do our bit, obviously. Like, we've become very insular as people. We have all this entertainment in our houses now. Like, when I was growing up, you got bored. You got bored and you didn't want to be in the house. You know, you had 5 channels to pick from and that was it. No Deliveroo or anything like that. So we do have to be more mindful and try and make an effort to step out of that. I know it's hard, but I...
Across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:27. I'm trying to talk about other things, but every paper is dominated by Keir Starmer. Starmer fights for future over Mandelson scandal, say the Times. If you're just waking up, it is the main news story in town. On the front of The Guardian, I don't like handling this. It's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs amid fury over Mandelson. To put it into a very brief description for you, Mandelson, he finally yesterday, under pressure from Kemi Badenoch, who was fantastic, he finally went, yeah, I did know he had a relationship with a paedophile. Have a watch, have a listen.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister?
Yes, it did.
There you go. And at that moment, your political career is in the toilet, because if you're that stupid, Charlie Rowley, to ally yourself to somebody like that, and then, of course, they all waded in, because then he said, we're going to have an inquiry, but the Cabinet Secretary who works for me is going to decide which papers I give out. No, no, no. And then she did what I've been waiting for her to do. Our Ange jumped up, twisting the knife, and went, no, I think Number 10 should release all the papers. So it is fair to say that Number 10 is in turmoil. Today, Keir Starmer is making a speech. We're told to announce a cash injection of millions to rejuvenate the most deprived communities. Other people think he might resign or call a general election. He is definitely on the ropes. Morning, Pete.
Well, this Peter Mandelson thing, he has destroyed the Labour Party, and it should be a complete resignation of this government for a general election, not just Keir Starmer resigning. That doesn't wash, because he knew exactly what Mandelson was, And let's face it, right? So did Gordon Brown and whoever else elected him before that, or else give him a job. There's something very, very fishy about this Mandelson bloke. He must, in my opinion, does he have dirt on everybody up and down the chain?
I mean, that's the point, Charlie Rowley, isn't it? We can keep going on, but there has to be... Can it just be complete... what's the right word? Unintelligent approaches to everything. It can't be. How is this man, Mandelson, so able to reincarnate? I mean, never again. He's going to jail, and his wife runs, which looks like a nappy, by the way. I genuinely think there must be dirt. I'm with Pete there.
Yeah, look, the longer this goes on, and unless things are actions need to be spoken louder than the words of. So it's all very well the Prime Minister getting up at the dispatch box saying, Peter lied and lied and lied again. Fine, release the documents. The one thing that the Prime Minister can do today, instead of trying to, again, the optics, I'm sort of sitting here cringing. Okay, he's going to give a speech potentially about talking about pots of funding in parts of the areas.
Which is very good, but nobody's going to give a toss because all the journalists are going to go, why did you have to be forced by your own MPs to release papers? Because that must give the impression that you're hiding something, you...
Exactly. And because this is still the #1 issue of the day. Everyone's talking about it. It's on front pages of every national newspaper and international one probably going. What the Prime Minister should be doing now is sitting around with his team and saying, right, OK, we put forward a suggestion that the government, the most senior civil servant was going to look into this and release the papers. Parliament decided that actually it should go through the Intelligence Security Committee. They won, we lost, so let's get it out there now. Let's get all of the information out there now. I will go out and do a speech to say, I've heard what Parliament want to say. I wasn't trying to obfuscate everything. I just wanted to hold things back because of what might have been national security issues. But here you go. That is all the information. It vindicates the Prime Minister's position. It won't, by the way, but that's what he should be trying to say.
Well, this is the point, surely.
And get on the front foot.
I don't want to rake up old ground, right, in terms of anybody in a situation. But if you've got the proof of something when you're being accused of doing something wrong, right? I mean, I got attacked yesterday by that Labour peer about what happened to me, right? I didn't say anything for 6 years because I wasn't legally allowed to. I could have done it on day one. There are ways that you have to behave. But when you see a politician, certainly a Prime Minister, go, and he was like a fish on a hook yesterday. I don't care. If you watch it, he's squirming, right? Again, the madness of it is if I had that information, I'd have gone out and gone, right, you lot, you can take me on, but there are the facts. And I wasn't told by the security services, and I did... Patently he was. Patently he's lying. And patently I don't understand, maybe I'm wrong here, but this is me, how he didn't think that wouldn't come back and bite him on the backside.
Yeah, he could release the one page or page that sort of had reference to Peter Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, but it might have contained, we don't know, but it might have contained 2 or 3 other pages attached to that to say all the great stuff that Peter Mandelson would have brought. Now, still a wrong decision, obviously, but at least the Prime Minister would have something to maybe justify why he was convinced by 3 other pages of pro-Bandy stuff. People will then ask, well, why was there so many other pages that were pro-Peter Mandelson?
It's just all unanswered questions. I'd love to do other news, but this is absolutely... I'm just going mad. Morning, JK, regarding Starmer, better the devil you know, says Dal. That could come back to be very true. Vince, morning. Can you name a week under Starmer in which it hasn't been bad news? Every week, if it's not a U-turn on policy, an MP being caught out, Starmer being weak, or the laughing stock on the international stage. And I'm sorry for all those people in the Labour Party. And I want to say something else as well. This station has more people listening than ever before, and we reach out on a daily basis to the Labour Party. We have Conservatives on, we have occasional Liberal Democrats on, we have Reform voters on. Today we've got the Conservative candidate for the Denton and Gorton by-election. The Labour Party won't come on. It's like yesterday, what are you scared of? That Labour peer. Have a debate with me about pensioners losing their heating rights, farmers having their land grabbed, I don't know, waspy women, our veterans, the troubles. But he shook his head at me, Lord Fawkes, yesterday and said he's done really well on the international stage. grasp the moment here, Labour Party, and understand that the people of this country don't believe anything that's coming out of your mouths. And Charlie, for me, they've achieved this in 18 months. It took the Tories 14 years to get to a point of no return.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, if this scandal had emerged earlier, or if the Labour government were actually doing well, doing things that people wanted, the Prime Minister might have a bit more wriggle room to say, you know what, I've got this wrong. But look at all the other great things that we're doing. And, you know, and you sack Peter Mandelson and you sort of cooperate with, if it's a police investigation that they're now talking to Number 10 about, or whatever it is, you can sort of get by by saying, look, got this one wrong, sorry about that, but look at all the other great things we're doing. But it's the barnacles on the boat. The more that they stack up,
phrase.
It's going to sink.
Barnacles on the boat.
And this is a big one, and that's why this ship is now sinking.
Wow, it's very nautical. Have you ever had barnacles on your boat? There's a thought. I bet you have. Surely Starmer has to go today, says Scottish. He's damaged the Labour Party beyond repair. I don't think he's going to go at all. I do think he's going to go, actually, but I think it's going to take some members of the cabinet to step down. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I think it'll be sooner rather than later. Mark Jones, Jez, have you noticed the one person who has not been shown or made any comment on this crisis? Yeah, I have actually. Tony Blair. Where's he hiding? Mark Wensbury, or Mark in Wensbury. Steve, I know beer prices went up, but that won't stop me having a few and celebrating when Starmer resigns and this Labour Party is finally out of power. Good morning to Jason Grumpy from Pompey. This useless excuse of a man, a top KC barrister, previous chief prosecutor and the Prime Minister of our entire nation, seems to have forgotten it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the damn truth. How the hell did he get so far up the political ladder being so vacuous and inept? It's nothing but spin and lies. He's got to go. I'm fed up to the back teeth. Joanna in Salisbury says maybe the speech this morning will lead to him resigning, or the narcissist calling an election. No, we're going to talk about our Pride in Place programme, about how Great Britain is going to change. Yeah. Rachel, good day. Jez and Charlie, every time a scandal hits the Labour government, Starmer survives. He can't possibly survive this time, can he? I don't think he can.
No, and I think that's absolutely right. He will go somewhere on a visit today and he'll say that this is a great sum of money that we're distributing right across the country for communities that are left behind. That's what Labour gives you versus anybody else, so don't bother looking anywhere else. But this is tone deaf, in my view. And you've got to, you know, politics, it shifts between actually the governing side and the political side. And if you're a Labour strategist now in Number 10, if you're the political...
You should be sacked if you're a Labour strategist because you're rubbish.
Well, exactly. But you're sitting there now pulling your hair out thinking, we've got a by-election in a few weeks' time. And then a few weeks' time after that, we've got local elections. This is the only story that's going to hang around
it's not going anywhere.
As a party. And it's going to...
I honestly, and loads of you get on, we'll get you on. Brian and a tick. The first time yesterday that I watched, I was in here and Julie was doing a great show and I watched on the screen. His eyes started to go. I thought it was the first time that he looked like he didn't believe he could survive. I think he looked like a man who thought that the BS that comes out of his mouth on a daily basis was no longer washing. And I think it's really relevant. 23 minutes to 7, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Morning, Bright.
Morning, Jazz. Loving the show. Brilliant. My only thoughts on Starmer is be careful what you wish for. Who is going to replace him? You know, Deputy Prime Minister Lammy, or Angela Rayner.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 7, and welcome to Thursday, the 5th of February. You're waking up. There's only one story. It's dominating every newspaper. It's on the front, my God, of The Guardian. It's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs amid fury over Mandelson. The front of the Mail as Starmer in grave peril as Rayner twists the knife. Yesterday, in the Commons, badgered by a brilliant performance by Badenoch, who said, listen, let's cut to the chase. We know Mandelson's a paedophile. We know friends with a paedophile. We know that Mandelson was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, the paedophile. We know that he has been accused by the Metropolitan Police of giving away state secrets in emails. The man's going to jail. You can dress it up how you want. She wanted to know, quite rightly, did nobody tell you this before you made him ambassador? And for weeks he's been going, no, I mean... And yesterday, that Labour guy, the security forces didn't tell... Yeah, they did. Watch this, because old Keir... It's all right, go again. It's fine.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. There you have it, absolutely in an absolute moment. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Jez. It's Steve from Essex here again. Mate, I said I see everybody's well buzzing about Starmer. My concern is who's going to take over from Starmer, because I think Starmer was just the face of the problems we've got. I think we've got bigger problems behind the scenes there, and who else is there to take over now? I'd be scared of David Lemmy. I know that. Mahmood? No, I can't see that either being good. And everybody else is even more far left than Starmer, so everybody's buzzing. I'm a bit concerned.
Couldn't agree more with that. Charlie Rowley, I just want to say something that is really relevant, I think. Said it to you off air, but I want to repeat for the listeners. Today, Starmer, oblivious to this, it'll be the usual thing. He's going to go out to a community and talk about his Pride in Place programme, where he's going to talk about a cash injection of £800 million to rejuvenate the most deprived communities. Don't take this the wrong way. That is absolutely small change. The Chagos giveaway, peeps, cost $35 billion.
Yeah, it is. It's totally just small chips. Nothing to but it's a
Nobody's
statement
interested.
to try. No one's interested. But this is the only thing that this Prime Minister's obviously woken up this morning and thought to himself, right, what can I do to try and be seen, because I can't be hiding in the bunker. But I've got to say something, and I've got to keep the show on the road and perform as if everything's okay. When of course the whole building is burning down around you.
You're loving this, aren't you?
Well, I find it. I'm not loving it, because I know what it's like in there. But when you have so many unforced errors, and when you spent your time in government, not me personally, I wasn't a government minister, but just advising, and you're there as part of the team, and you've seen for the last 5 years this guy opposite various prime ministers on the Tory benches say to you, particularly to Boris, that you're wrong about this. How dare you do that? How you are riddled with sleaze, scandal. The Tory party is just an absolute shower. And then we see this guy stepping up, or not quite stepping up at all, but in that hot seat. He is front and centre in the spotlight. And for the last 18 months, as you say, it has been a disaster. But when you can get some things wrong. Of course, things go wrong all the time. But your judgment is always on the line. Yep. And for whatever the internal party politics of the Tory party, I don't think it's been as bad as this Prime Minister's complete lack of judgment, completely lack of political antennae. He doesn't know what he wants to do with the country. And even though I totally agree with your listeners who think it could be so much worse under someone else compared to the Prime Minister, I think that's absolutely right. But at least I might have a bit more respect for Angela Rayner, because she sort of has an idea of what she wants to do with the country, even if I disagree with it even more.
Well, I made a point yesterday,
she has a vision.
And a couple of people texted me and went, what do you mean? It's like Jeremy Corbyn. There is not a part of my being that agreed with anything that Corbyn stood on, right? But I absolutely respect the fact that his left-wing agenda, he printed it, he stood on it, and he got 34% of the vote. I have said for months, I don't know whether Starmer is... I don't think he's got political DNA. I don't think he's got antennae. I don't think he calls it. I don't think he feels it. I don't think he... It just doesn't smell it, man. He doesn't smell what the people are thinking. He doesn't understand or take the pulse of the room. He's a bloody lawyer. And you're right, you said it during the break. It's all about the process, the process, the process. Very quickly, from Damon. Good morning and welcome to the Charlie Rowley show with special guest Jeremy Carl. Damon's in Wigan. This is a really salient point. We'll move on afterwards. After the Peter Mandelson fiasco, the entire political system, in my mind, wants changing. Because if Joe Public was doing what a lot of these politicians are up to, we would be sacked immediately. No ifs, no buts. This is the reason, I think, that the British people don't have any trust in our politicians anymore. And it's time something was done to bring all politicians into line and to give us the impression they're not just living on the gravy train. It's time to make politicians accountable for their actions, and also they should realise that they work for the British people and it's not the other way round. And I think that, as an opinion, is gathering force on a daily basis.
Totally. And look, you know, we had a conversation, I think, last week about is Britain broken or is it just the politics that's broken, as Kemi Badenoch said. I think it is all a bit of a mess. But, you know, that's a perfect surmise of where we are in the country. And people will see that Keir Starmer keeps gallivanting around the world. As you say, that Lord Fawkes that you had on yesterday said, well, isn't he doing great on the international stage? It's not about the international stage.
Is that being humiliated by Trump or something? How is he doing well on the internet by creating the coalition of the willing?
Yes, exactly. When we've got all these
Even the
problems
name of that annoys me. The coalition of the willing.
Well, there's no coalition of the willing on the Labour backbenches to support this Prime Minister anymore.
Absolutely not.
Yesterday.
Front of the Sun, though, it's not just Starmer, revolting staff strike at Andy's new home. Let's get our daily royal update from the lady who knows Epstein. Let's go to LA. A very good morning to the wonderful Kinsey Schofield. Good morning.
Hi, JK. The story that never sleeps. It is Andrew Epstein and the chaos that surrounds these two.
It's extraordinary. We've spent 45 minutes. I mean, our Prime Minister is on the brink this morning. His own party have turned against him because he's admitted finally that he knew the links between Mandelson and the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And for Andrew, I'm really interested. I was thinking about our conversation yesterday. Overnight, we hear that staff at Andrew's exiled home on the Sandringham estate. He's actually living at the moment in Wood Farm, which is where the Duke of Edinburgh spent his last few days, and then he's moving to this new marsh farm. They're refusing to work for him. There are problems already with that. More emails overnight. I can't even bring myself at 7:15 to say this without trying not to feel a little bit sick in my mouth. Emails emerging that Andrew and micro-penis boy Epstein asked an exotic dancer for a threesome. I mean, unpalatable doesn't even begin to describe it, does it?
This one is unreal. The idea that they hired an exotic dancer to come over and dance with them, and at some point they asked her to join them for whatever. She said she was uncomfortable. That's not what she did. She was a dancer, but they convinced her by promising her $10,000, which she said she couldn't turn down. At the end of the night, they paid her $2,000, promising to, I owe you, I guess. They never paid her, so she threatens to sue him through an attorney, and that's how we find out about this. Messages through Epstein. Epstein's sending them to his attorney saying this is a shakedown. But the visual, none of us ever wanted, especially at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I just don't know where it... When I read something yesterday that the reason he was taken out of Royal Lodge in the dead of night on Monday was that the King finally was fed up seeing pictures of him riding his horses and gallivanting through the Windsor Great Park Fields, where I used to live, as you know, for 7 years. And the idea of Norfolk is out of the public eye. He can get on with his life. But you've got even the staff are saying they don't want him. And I went back over all of this yesterday, and we were talking about what happens. I think you're right. I think he's going to have to leave the United Kingdom.
Well, this is not just a personal disgrace. I would argue it's the most damaging crisis to hit the British monarchy since the abdication, potentially even worse than the abdication, because it strikes at the institution's moral authority. It's not just about image here. I mean, The Sun's got this story about Andrew emailing Epstein saying he wishes he could be his pet. God, it's cold and dank here. Wish I was still a pet in your family. Now, we've discussed this briefly, but the Sun is reporting that royal sources say King Charles had no heads up about Andrew's involvement in the Epstein files. You know, the U.S. government didn't call and warn anybody, no ambassadors messaging them. We're told that there is increasing pressure behind the scenes at the palace for Andrew to cooperate with U.S. lawmakers. But you and I've had this discussion a million times. I mean, these emails from Ghislaine confirming that image is real of Andrew and his victim, alleged victim. So does this guy have the credibility? I mean, yes, I'm sure U.S. lawmakers would love it to sit and talk to him and ask him a million questions about Jeffrey Epstein, but can we trust a single thing he says?
I think that's really relevant. On screen, you're seeing the photo of him with Virginia Giuffre. This caused so much furore over the years. He and many supporters, I won't name them, said this was fake, and he did that infamous Newsnight interview where he said, I wasn't there, this isn't the right way round, and Ghislaine Maxwell's dumped on him in the last 24 hours and said that is a true and genuine picture. It is so sordid, Kins, and there are so many different angles to this revolting story, and the tentacles, as I said yesterday, of this man, extraordinary. One doesn't even know where it comes from. But for Andrew, you just said, if he actually went and sat, I don't think he'll set foot in America, but agreed to a Zoom interview, let's say, with Congress, would we believe a word that comes out of this entitled man's head? Because I'm still hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, that he's still, wherever his bolt hole is, he's still sat there thinking he's done absolutely nothing wrong, and he's the victim, and the world's turned against him unfairly.
He's the victim. Did you see the emails from Sarah Ferguson where she's having a pity party? She said she's been caught offering cash for access, and she's emailing Epstein looking for sympathy, putting all of the blame on the British royal family, saying that they've hung her out to dry. The press will have her exiled. She's totally on her own. This is beyond scandalous and nobody can do anything. She even says something to the effect of, like, no woman that leaves the British royal family leaves with her head.
Absolutely.
You know, comparing herself to Anne Boleyn. So
I can't remember Anne Boleyn sucking somebody's toes in public.
It was Fergie getting her toes sucked. You better.
Oh, James Bryan, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, another guy in finance.
Yeah.
So she clearly has a type. But they do think that they're perpetual victims. Yeah. They do think that we should sympathize with them, even though they have been so vulgar, vile, and such a stain on the British royal family, such a huge, huge embarrassment.
Couldn't agree more. It's lovely to catch in on you. I know bed beckons, but this story ain't going away. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. And yeah, staff at his exiled home are refusing to work. It's a story that continues to give. The amazing Kinsey Schofield, thank you very much indeed. 8 minutes to 7 o'clock. 0344 499 1000. For your text messages, 87222. It's all about Starmer and Andrew. It's Talk Breakfast. Morning, Jane.
Morning, JK. Where is Ed Miliband? He's never at Prime Minister's Question Time, ever. Where is he? What's he plotting? Is he going to pop up in number 10? As soon as Keir Starmer goes?
Jeremy Clarkson, a pub owner, he wrote a very scathing piece in The Sun this weekend saying that reform sounds great until you ask what they actually do beyond stopping the boats.
I think what he's done for farming is fantastic. I think he's woken the country up to how blooming difficult actually being a farmer is. So I can tell you, Jeremy, there's a constructive plan for pubs that also cuts the welfare bill. I'm sure he will approve thoroughly of that. And you can tell him we're working very, very hard on a proper agricultural policy as well.
On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 5 to 7, Charlie Rowley, the wonderful Charlie Rowley. We've talked Starmer, we've talked Andrew, just a couple of other things. In the Times, page 14, quite an interesting headline. Number 10 confident that Trump won't block Chagos deal. I think he will, and I think that anything that Number 10 is confident in is probably the complete opposite. Would you not agree? I think he will block it.
Totally. And I think, look, anything that you might hear from Number 10 in the next few days that could be positive in their favour, I think we'll take with a pinch of salt.
So what we want today is for Trump to come out and say, I'm not having the Chagos deal, just to send them to complete meltdown. And just to give you an idea, page 2 of The Sun today, shock Labour admission. Ready? Illegal migrants have been banned from costly taxis to hospital. Hurrah! But we can't stop the boats, says Shabana Mahmood. We can stop the taxis, but not the boats.
Yes.
I am so bored of this subject.
Yeah. But it's still happening, and that's the problem. You know, people thought that a new Labour government was going to come in. OK, it cancelled the Rwanda plan, but it was going to get tough on, the issue of immigration, legal immigration.
No, it's going to smash the gangs.
Smash the gangs. Yeah. But it simply hasn't. And OK, it's fine. You know, OK, but this is. I don't want to see people that come into this country get free taxis to and from the NHS when there are hard-working people, Alarm Clock Britain, that can't even get an appointment, let alone get a free cab.
I don't care if people don't like that. It is absolutely fundamentally wrong. And we have people... Listen, we must be doing something right. We've got more people listening to Talk than ever before. A station that based itself on common sense. And if the common sense angle says this, right... To your Indigenous populations, thank you so much for working. Thank you for paying increasing amounts of tax. Thank you for basically allowing crime to be prevalent in your society whilst we don't have any police running. But we really appreciate it. You lot, you've never lived here. You don't speak the language. But you can come in, and I've decided that you are going to be treated better than the people who pay for it. There is nobody with a brain cell that can justify to me that makes sense, Charlie.
Yeah, no, totally, 100%. But because, you know, for all Labour politicians, you know, there's a sense of injustice. Yeah. And these people that do come over in small boats, they're all being persecuted and prosecuted somewhere across the world. They are all refugees.
Would it be fair to say
help.
that I think the British people are beginning to feel persecuted?
Oh, well, totally. Well, being taken for a ride.
Yeah.
And when you see day after day the decisions that Number 10 and the government are making, which are clearly for the worse, less coupled with political decisions like the ones that we've been talking about today, it just adds to the pressure, that cooker pressure in Number 10, where it's going to explode at some point, and Starmer will have to go.
Well, let's talk about that with a couple of minutes to go. Love having you on, my friend. Thank you. Keir Starmer, under massive, massive pressure. His own backbenchers have turned on him, led by Angela. Does he survive this, in your political experienced opinion?
No. He can't. Whether it's today, tomorrow, or in a few weeks' time, whether it's after the local elections, this story will run and run and run. But there will be other stories, just as there have been in the past, whether it's about government decisions that they've got wrong. He is ultimately in the firing line, in the spotlight, and he's not liked amongst his backbenchers. The problem that the Labour Party have got, a bit like the problem that the Tory Party had, is if you are under so much pressure, like Boris was, we must get rid of Boris. There'll be Labour MPs thinking, we must get rid of Starmer. He's not electorally favourable to us in our constituencies. He must go. The next question is, who?
Well, it's somebody made a really great point before. Ed Miliband, nowhere to be seen.
Yep.
It's fascinating. We are on resignation watch. Charlie Rowley, thank you so much indeed. If you're waking up, the news is just Starmer fighting for his political life. Let me tell you, when The Guardian puts on its front page, it's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs amid fury over Mandelson, you know you are in trouble. 0344 499 1000 for those voice notes. 87222 for your text. We're coming back with Deputy Leader of Reform Richard Tice. All of that after the news at 7 on Talk, which is next.
video from Crowborough where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp. Do you feel safe for her? No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it, that nowadays and age, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, my friends. Just gone 7 o'clock. Welcome to Talk. It is the home of common sense. It's the home of the alarm clock Britain. Thank you, because more of you are listening to this radio station than ever before. The figures told us yesterday. We thank you for that. Listen, you're waking up to one story and one story only. Sir Keir Starmer in grave peril, says the Mail. As Rayner twists the knife, let's just sum it up really quickly. It went like this. He employs Mandelson. Mandelson's just this week been outed as potentially and allegedly sending secret government facts on email to a convicted paedophile. But the big question yesterday in the House of Commons from Badenoch and everybody else was, did you not know the fact that this piece of work was in fact enshrined in everything to do with Epstein before? No. And then the truth.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Yes, it did.
There you go. Yes, it did. Morning, Mike.
Morning, Jeremy. I hate to rain on anybody's parade and match the weather this morning, which is actually shocking. As good as Kenry was, I know it's all great news that Sharma was completely beaten into the ground, and good for it. So he gets nothing less than he deserves. But my big worry is, who are we replacing him with?
Completely agree. 4 minutes past 7. We'll say a very good morning to a man who was right in the thick of it yesterday. I saw him asking a question in his new shirt. Deputy Leader of Reform, Richard Tice. A very good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Well, it was an extraordinary day yesterday, Jeremy. The Prime Minister's admissions just shocked everybody in the House of Commons. And I have to tell you that the atmosphere on the Labour benches was like being at a funeral. And it was somber. They knew that the Prime Minister had been utterly skewered by all of these revelations. And then after that, we had this Opposition Day debate about releasing all of the information surrounding his appointment. And there was Angela Rayner sitting alone on one of the benches, 2 benches behind the front bench. And I watched her for over an hour. She was there and she was joined by various of her sort of allies coming forwards. And then she made a pretty punchy intervention, basically disagreeing with the Prime Minister, saying that actually it should be the Intelligence and Security Committee that decided what should and shouldn't be released, what was or was not in the national security interest to be protected. And that was the moment, that was the defining moment, really, of the whole day where Rayner basically abandoned her own Prime Minister.
Extraordinary for me. I was reading the front of the Mail this morning. I'm a great fan of Quentin Letts, and he writes, punctured perhaps beyond repair, Sir Keir deflated before our very eyes. Kemi kept bayoneting him from the Labour side, a cold, sinister silence. I know we sometimes could be accused of too much hyperbole. Genuinely, though, man to man, this is the beginning of the end in your mind?
Oh, definitely. I mean, actually, the beginning of the end started a while ago. What this has done has accelerated the end, potentially very, very quickly indeed. And very, very senior Labour figure told me in the Commons, or just outside the chamber itself, that remember this day, it is a seismic day. And whether he lasts into March is genuinely open to question. For him to last until the May elections on May the 7th, he would be doing very, very well indeed. And but one thing's for sure, he'll be enjoying a very long summer holiday as an ex-Prime Minister.
I saw for the first time, Richard, and I was fascinated. Not fear, but he started blinking and I thought, you've lost it, mate. I'm not even sure you've had it, but he genuinely looked to me, for the first time, he looked surrounded without over-dramatising it.
Well, it was, because the whole thing is just so extraordinary. He had the information,
yeah,
and everyone has to wonder why. What? And there's obviously serious question marks about Morgan McSweeney,
who he tied himself to absolutely when that was put to him, and I thought he'd drop McSweeney to save his own neck.
No, but actually, history shows that if the Prime Minister expresses confidence in you one week in PMQs, the chances are you're gone by the next. I mean, that happened to Mandelson last September, and McSweeney will absolutely be the price of trying to keep the Prime Minister afloat over the next couple of days. McSweeney is surely toast.
Well, let's play a quick clip if we can. It's only 30 seconds. This was Starmer and Badenoch. This was all about Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff.
The Prime Minister chose to inject Mandelson's poison into the heart of his government on the advice of Morgan McSweeney. His catastrophic lack of judgment, telling us now that he did know, has harmed the special relationship. It has endangered national security. It's not the humble address, it's him. It's compromised our diplomacy and it has embarrassed our nation. After all of this, does he have the same full confidence in Morgan McSweeney that he had in Peter Mandelson?
Prime Minister.
McSweeney is an essential part of my team. He helped me change the Labour Party and win an election. Of course I have confidence in him.
Richard, you're a successful businessman. We all disagree on things, but what I can't get my head around, we can all just go, oh, he's useless. Is it bad advice, genuinely not being up to the job, not having the DNA, just not smelling it? This guy cannot seem to make a decision that screams out to everybody else. What is wrong with him?
His judgment on so many different matters is completely and utterly flawed. He's just incompetent. That's the bottom line. If you look at all of the, whatever it is, 14, 15 U-turns that they've done, almost all of them, to anybody with a half an ounce of common sense, was pretty obvious, whether it is the winter fuel allowance, the family farm tax, increasing national insurance, time and time again, Chagos, all of these things, totally self-inflicted. Basically, he's just spent his whole premiership irritating different sections of the country, which is why he's now the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began decades and decades ago. I mean, he's approaching, it's quite remarkable, actually.
I know, that's what I mean. It is astonishing. But it brings me to the next thing, and I'd love to speak to you about this. So many people this morning saying, however horrific he is, isn't it not in other parties' political interest that he stays? Because what is the alternative? How far left would this country go under a Rayner or a Miliband, a man who thinks we should be 80 billion in debt over some mad net zero? And you know what I think about that. What is the alternative? I'm not saying that's a reason he should stay, but when you look across that front bench, apart from the ones who know they're toast as well, we ain't got much choice, have we? And they're not going to call an election, or can they be forced to be?
Well, that's what happens with hard left socialist groups of folk, in this case, a government. And, you know, the reality is, as we've been saying for some time, things are regrettably going to get worse before they get better. There's no growth in the economy. Borrowing is through the roof. Their policies are completely and utterly anti-business. So whoever's in charge, it's going to be a difficult period. That ends when they have to rein in the vast amount of wasteful government spending, and many on the backbenchers behind them won't be prepared to do that. That's what probably triggers an early election, if there is one. They're all as bad as each other, as far as I can see.
Do you, I mean, you said you think he goes. Who do you and Reform believe will be the next leader and thus, unbelievably, Prime Minister? Miliband, Rayner, who showed her hand yesterday. She talked about national interest. I'd say self-interest, but I could be cynical.
Well, for the first time yesterday, I saw Angela Rayner working the tea room quite actively. Let's put it like that.
What does that mean?
That means that she was schmoozing her potential allies in a leadership bid, and there was a focus, a sort of steely focus in everything about Angela Rayner yesterday that indicated to me that there's something's going on here, and she has to be joint favourite with Miliband, would be my hunch.
Must be interesting to watch. Can I just get your opinion quickly? I've been told Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform, has to go at 7:15. Revolting, front page of The Sun. We've obviously talked about Labour's forcing Starmer's U-turn. Quick comment from you. You're a Brit, a proud Brit. Staff are now striking at Andrew's new home in Sandringham, refusing to work for him. Do you believe he should be banished? I mean, it's not going away for the royal family either. Not at all. This whole Epstein nightmare is not going away for them either.
Yes, it gets worse and worse for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor with ever more revelations. The whole thing is, it's horrifying, actually, just horrifying. And it will, it's hard to see anything ever getting any better at all.
It can't. It can't. And one final thing before you go, Chagos. We're learning this morning in the Telegraph. This shocks me. He's expected to approve Starmer's Chagos deal. I want him to actually this morning put on Truth Social, I'm not approving it, which will send the government into more meltdown. But I don't understand that briefly. Do you? Why would Trump approve that? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense unless the Prime Minister has caved on a whole load of stuff and, I don't know, maybe offered the US a whole bunch of money. If the Prime Minister had any political nous whatsoever, he would abandon the Chagos deal now, immediately, to help try and save his skin. But of course he won't, because he's utterly incompetent.
Lots of people saying keep Starmer in post. Miliband will be in number 10 otherwise, or Rayner. It will be much worse for Britain. Somebody sent a present in for you yesterday, which I forwarded to the House of Commons. It's the Lord of the Rings. We can't let you go, Richard Tice, without knowing how Operation Oakshott Ring is going. The poor woman. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. What's going on?
What do you mean, the poor woman? I mean, she's lucky enough to be marrying me. Everything's bright and rosy.
I've got her on in half an hour. She might well be a lucky woman to be marrying you, but where's the ring, Tice? What's the problem?
Look, patience is a virtue. We had a good weekend looking at rings.
Oh, did you?
Literally just gone. This is not the sort of thing you rush and make the wrong choice, Jeremy. I mean, you above all men know that, don't you?
Very, very good. I've spent my life looking for wedding rings. I'll give you that one, Tice Man. Thank you so much indeed. Great to have you on. Good man. Yeah, Deputy Leader Reform, Richard Tice. I've spent a lot of time looking for wedding rings. 7:15. You're waking up to the news on Talk Breakfast that we have more listeners than ever before. Thank you very much indeed for moving to Talk in your droves, right? It's home of common sense. Many people, when this station started, were like, you can't say these sorts of things. I said something the other day. 10 years ago, you couldn't mention the word immigration. Now, the unfairness of our system, I think, is resonating with so many people. What you will get on this station is common sense and the chance, whether you're alarm clock Brits, a working Brit, to have your say on the news of the day. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Morning, JB.
Jezza, if there's to be a new Prime Minister, it should be voted in by the people, not by the members, people in Parliament on their party. It should be voted in by the people, someone that the people want.
Does Keir Starmer have blood on his hands?
Yes, he does. I hope he lives with that for the rest of his life. It's not just my child he's taken away. These poor innocent children that are getting raped daily, may I add. These poor women like Rhiannon that are getting murdered. He and all the other people that agree with this, they have those people's blood on their hands.
29 years, is that enough?
Nothing will ever be enough.
UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:20. You're waking up on when? And no, it's Thursday, the 5th of February, to the news that our Prime Minister, according to the left-wing rag that is The Guardian, is literally on the ropes and it's all over. MPs on the Labour benches are revolting. I don't mean that in a bad way. When Starmer goes, says Phil in Coventry, and he will, Herman needs to go as well, the Attorney General. Compensation for Lucy Connolly and all the other people stitched up by this government. Couldn't agree more. Hello to John in Maidstone. Jez, surely, this is interesting, some cabinet ministers should resign so they're no longer associated with Starmer. After the admission yesterday, they did know about the ongoing relationship between Mandelson and Epstein. Surely, this is an opportunity to show character. Now, John in Maidstone, maybe I'm a cynical man. It won't be about them showing character. It'll be about them sitting in their offices, working out when they can show their hand. If they resign too quickly and he survives, their careers are over. If they resign at the right moment and he goes, then the next person in will look on them favourably. That's how dirty the business is. Darren is in South East London. Morning, Dazzler. He says, great show this morning. It's such drama. It's so gripping. You just can't keep away from it. Just can't wait to see what else is about to come out. The rats are slowly falling. I think it's called karma. Keep up the great work, Jez, and getting it out there to the nation. Glad to know much of the nation are also listening now. Hello to Betty. All of this is deliberate manoeuvres in my mind to take over this country by the hard left. I have to say, I reckon Starmer's the best bet. Geez. Hello to Gaz in Scunthorpe, lovely. I used to watch your old TV show, Carl, not always for me, but since you joined Talk, I really enjoy listening to your show in the morning. Great. Before I leave for work. Keep up the good work. The world needs to know. Neil's in Stoke-on-Trent. Morning, Jezza and the lovely Charlie. He's gone off now to the gym. All this talk about what a diabolical shambles Starmer and his cabinet are and the damage they're causing to our once great country. Is it possible to mention the great achievement of this government? You haven't mentioned breakfast clubs yet. No, I just don't... Because we haven't got a breakfast club here. I haven't seen a bloody breakfast club. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Dan from Kent. We can all agree that Starmer's a dead man walking. He's gone. He's just part of the problem, a major part, of course. Look at the cabinet, Hermer, Reeves, they're all useless. They're the ones that are causing downfall of this country. So whoever takes over, is there really the talent in the depths of Labour to form another government and to make this country better? I don't think so. So nothing will suit me until there's a general election.
7:21. Lots of you this morning saying if Starmer goes, and we are on resignation watch here at Talk this morning for all those ministers, what is the alternative? Nobody's seen hide nor hair of what's he called, Ed Miliband. Nobody. Rainey yesterday jumping up and saying, you know what, you're wrong, Key, you need to release that to the Ethics Committee and Intelligence Committee, and she stuck the knife in already. Many people are saying, is the alternative worse? The Deputy Prime Minister of this country, Calamity Lammy, would actually become the Prime Minister if Starmer resigns for a period of time, which I think is quite frightening. This is him talking about Mandelson in the past.
Peter Mandelson is a man of considerable expertise. He's the right man for this moment to be our ambassador. He's been a business secretary, a Northern Ireland secretary. Of course, he's worked in the European Commission, and he brings all of that to bear working as our ambassador in the United States. And of course, he's looking forward to presenting his credentials to Donald Trump.
Can I just say, without being accused of getting on my soapbox, I think David Lammy is living proof, kids, or anybody with aspiration, that you can achieve anything in life. I haven't achieved an awful lot, but if that can become our Prime Minister, essentially, or Deputy Prime Minister, he just said he's got a lot to bring. He's been the business secretary, sacked for giving passports to dodgy businessmen. He's been the Northern Ireland secretary, sacked for a dodgy loan, which he lied to the HMRC about. He's been a trade envoy, sacked. He's going to make a great ambassador, sacked for a relationship with a paedophile. I don't have any trust in these people. I'm not trying to be unfair. It's just unbelievable. I need some balance. My good friend, I'll get some balance. I'm heading to the country. Former government advisor and my mate. James Price, a very good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm in the country, but it's just not the countryside. It's a different country, but hopefully you can still hear me.
Am I allowed to ask where? Have you left? Are you in the Chagos Islands? What's going on?
I'm a lot closer to the Chagos Islands. I'm in the UAE on a work trip, but I couldn't stay away from talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. You've worked at the centre of government. When the Guardian puts it's over for Starmer, a Labour Prime Minister, isn't that the end?
I mean, any other paper, I would say so, but if the Guardian's reporting it, then he's probably got another 3 terms in him. But I think, in general, this is looking pretty ropey for the Prime Minister now. I mean, the audible gasps when it came out that Starmer really did know a lot more than he let on about Mandelson's latest, well, how many other scandals is it? It is astonishing, because I think it gets to the heart of what a lot of regular people think about Westminster politics. I spend a lot of my time trying to explain to people that actually politics isn't nearly as corrupt or as self-interested as most people assume. Even when I talk to my parents, they kind of had the sort of working assumption that every politician was getting brown envelopes full of cash and that everybody was just in it for themselves and all the rest. So I try to explain to people, it's not like that. The pay is rubbish. The scrutiny, as we're seeing now, is very, very intense. And because of the power of the civil service, you often don't have a lot of power. So why do people go into it in the first place? But this Mandelson issue and the way that the Prime Minister knew all about it, the way that Mandelson has behaved, it sort of seems like a toxic combination of money and sex and corruption and influence.
Well, let me jump in and read something to you, actually, because I'm with you, right? And I understand that for a lot of people, they're trying to do their job. But we went through this with the expenses scandal. I think that politicians in general, it's so in the gutter in people's mind. Listen to Heather. Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Mandelson bring down the disgraceful Labour government to the gutter. It's Profumo affair Mark II, sex, espionage, blackmail and scandal. It is scandalous beyond belief. I mean, that's not an over-exaggerated text message, is it?
No, do you know what? I think the Profumo comparison is quite a good one. The weird thing about expenses, which is 17 years ago, was that the sums were so small and it was all so humdrum by and large, with a few exceptions of having your moats cleaned and the duck houses and the kind of eye-catching stuff. It was relatable to people because it was kind of small numbers. They thought, what? They're really like breaking all these rules and stealing small amounts from us. It was kind of pathetic, and it was not exactly on a kind of Berlusconi fun level. This is totally different in so many different areas. You know, we have to be careful, I'm sure, about libeling the lovely, wonderful, charming Mr. Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, as he will remain, even if he's kicked out of the Lords and keeps his title. But some of these 6,000 emails are very, very peculiar. When he asks, Epstein asks him what he would like. Would he like a Cuban American? And Mandelson goes, I'd love a Cuban American in New York, but I can't get away from Gordon Brown right now because he's going mad. I wonder what he's talking about there. And when he starts asking about money, I think it turns out allegedly that his husband was being given a sort of cash retainer from Epstein.
Yeah. Can I just jump in? I've just had some response. The Cuban American, I can confirm, listeners, was not a cigar. It was not a cigar. I'd like to make that point.
Oh, it just beggars belief, doesn't it? And therefore, I think it confirms all these things. It also, Jeremy, confirms a lot of the sort of what we thought were wilder, salacious conspiracy theories about these sorts of issues. And the problem with that is that it does so much to damage trust in the so-called elites at the top of our society at exactly the moment where we need that to be the opposite, when AI, where social media, all these changes are making sort of public life so bewildering, so confusing, and reducing trust. And by the way, reducing trust through mass immigration. We don't trust anybody because we can't even understand any of our neighbours anymore. We need our leaders to be paragons of virtue, probably more than ever. And I
agree with almost everything. We're mates, right? I saw Farage interviewed some time ago, and I'm not blowing smoke, I'm just making a point. And I told this story yesterday, and a woman said, so, Mr. Farage, I'll put you that you've gambled, you've smoked, you've had a couple of marriages, and, you know, you like to have fun. He went, yeah, all four. Now, can you ask me? I don't think we want paragons, right? I'll tell you why I'm going to disagree with you. I think this is scandalous and appalling, and as Alison says, here we go again, does no one ever learn sex and politics don't mix? I think with what we pay our politicians, we probably get what we deserve. I would prefer, JP, for somebody to stand for election and go, do you know what, let's just start this off before I stand as an MP. I've been married twice. I once, by the way, if you're tuning in, this isn't, I'm just giving you an example. I did some drugs at university. I've got 3 kids. Do you know what? But so write what you want. That's what I'm standing on. There are my policies. I don't think the people want squeaky clean. I think they're sick of the BS where people pretend to be squeaky clean and then end up looking anything but. That's what I think.
No, do you know, I think it's a great point. And Farage is a brilliant example of this. I think probably Trump to some extent as well.
Yeah.
All of his many flaws were well known before he went into public life, and people will go, oh, isn't he terrible, all the rest of it. And that stuff was factored in with Trump's supporters. Doesn't mean they like it, by the way. I talked to my in-laws, for example. Doesn't mean they like that Trump has done all these bad things. He says stupid stuff, all the rest of it. But it's priced in, as it was maybe to some extent with Boris Johnson, and certainly with Farage too. And you hear Nigel Farage speak publicly. I've heard him speak privately about these things. Says, look, I'm not, as you say, a paragon of moral virtue, but you know that about me. You know where I'm coming from.
But nobody is. That's the truth. Nobody damn well is. And
Exactly
once people get that through their heads, I spent 15 years doing what I did. Jesus, some of the worst critics, some of the journalists lived lives that, if they were ever printed, you could find that with anybody. But here's something, Cliff in Berkshire for you, JP. Morning, guys. This fiasco makes Boris's cake parties fade into insignificance. When I think back of the number of constant snide comments Starmer made during the dying days of Boris's premiership, I can think of only two words: bloody hypocrite. That's interesting as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely right. And again, some of this stuff might have been, I don't want to say forgiven, but people are capable, voters are capable of taking a kind of net view of these things.
Yeah.
Of going, well, there's some bad stuff that happens, there's some good stuff that happens. Where do I think those things balance out? But because the performance of this government has been so rancid across the board, you know, I try and be one of the most partisan people going. I'm never knowingly nuanced. Even I didn't think they'd be this bad on the substance or on the scandal.
Yeah.
You know, alongside the homelessness minister making people homeless, the housing minister only giving herself more houses, the anti-corruption minister getting done for corruption, we could go on and on and on. The fact that they haven't managed to achieve any meaningful progress on the economy, on the small boats, on improving quality of life for people, on defending our way of life, any of these things. In fact, the only thing that Starmer seems hell-bent and determined to do is to give away these Chagos Islands with this crucial US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean. Why is this the thing he is still pushing as his premiership looks like it could be about to come falling down? He could come out and cancel that deal and maybe even save his premiership. And the fact that he isn't makes me think there is something even darker going on there.
There's a story in the Telegraph today that says that they expect Trump to approve Starmer's Chagos deal. Now, we did a thing on this, you and me, a week ago. The total cost of this is 35 billion quid. He's going to get up this morning in number 10 and he's going to go somewhere in England. He's going to say, I'm committing 800 million quid to my Pride of whatever it's called placement project, which is I'm going to revitalise, you know, downtrodden areas with 800 million, which is nothing. But I'm going to spend 35 billion giving away sovereign territory. I don't understand why all I want today is a Truth Social post saying, the Chagos giveaway is the biggest fiasco in British government history. I cannot support this. I think that will push Starmer over the edge.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think that everybody at home, if they do one thing, is they're brushing their teeth and getting the kids to school and going to work and all the rest of it, write an email to your local MP, especially if it's one of these awful Labour MPs, and say that you stand against it and you will not under any circumstances vote for a Labour Party that does this. Absolutely outrageous. And we should remember, by the way, when Trump was last asked about this, he said, I don't understand why they're doing it. Do they need the money or something? Trump thinks we were selling the Chagos Islands, doesn't even realise that we're paying people to give it away to an ally of China. This is absolutely bonkers. And I will note that I think it's the case that Starmer visited Mauritius in the years just before he became a Member of Parliament. And his best buddy, Philippe Sands KC, who took on this case, is one of his best pals and who got given Mauritian citizenship, by the way, a few years ago, wrote in his book admitting that he worked with the Russians and the Chinese in order to secure the non-binding advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice about this, and has since gone on to say openly on stage in a recorded event people can Google, God, it feels so great to be working against your country. Well, if he's got Mauritian citizenship and he's got French citizenship as well, by the way, we should take his citizenship away from him and put him in the tower.
I don't understand so much. There's another story in the paper this morning. Lucy Connolly's racial hatred charge was fast-tracked by another of his friends, Lord Hermer. The woman who put hurty words that we don't condone was on X after the Southport riots. 31 months, eventually let out after a big campaign. Nobody condones what she said, but Hermer's part of the problem. It's this human rights nightmare. I mean, we can sit here and talk about it forever. Let's go to China, the worst human rights examples in the world. Let Hermer, who seems to, again, like you said, the other bloke, they seem to prioritise being made to look, or in their minds looking good in the world of, you know, political correctness and, you know, human rights. They don't give a toss about the United Kingdom. The truth is, though, through all of this, we look even more idiotic on the international stage, don't we?
We absolutely do. A bit of perspective here. Me sitting 3,500 miles away or whatever it is. There's a conference called the World Governments Summit going on here at the moment. A lot of interesting people I've been speaking to at it, and they look at the United Kingdom as a basket case. And it's not funny because it's our country that we love. And I spent some years working in the government trying to make it a bit better. You're doing God's work now, giving people the information they need to get that they're not getting from a lot of other places. But in the United Arab Emirates, where I'm now, we found out in the last few weeks that they now won't allow their students to go to British universities because they might end up as Islamist nutters. And the UAE is very good at cracking down on this. The UAE, by the way, that does look a bit like what the leftists seem to think that Britain should look like. It's incredibly cosmopolitan. You've got all the languages, all the food, all the different kind of faces in the world. And yet, because they're very strict on law and order, there's almost no crime here. I went to something called the Abrahamic Family House in Abu Dhabi the other day, where on one site there is a church and a mosque and a synagogue all together, where all three faiths get to worship there. It's all perfectly safe. And yet we've got examples coming out now, written by David Cameron-era special advisors, reports saying that countryside is too white and that people don't like going to the countryside if they're Muslim because there are dogs and pints of beer in country pubs. Do we think a civilization that treats itself like this, or a leadership that treats a British civilization like this, is going to survive if we keep going on this way? No, I don't. It's got to change, and it's got to change with political leaders doing it, because if they don't do it, then we're going to see uprisings in the street, and I do not want to see that happen. It will be awful for everybody, but something will snap at some point soon.
Couldn't agree more. How long are you away for, boy?
Another week or so. So I'll be back in Blighty for the show next week if you want me.
Good man, delighted. My love to Mrs. P. Always great to have you on. James Price, former government advisor, live from the United UAE. That was good. Isabel Oakeshott on the way ahead of 8 o'clock. We'll do the government round as well. 0344 499 if you're waking up. Thank you. More of you listening to this station talk than ever before. Yesterday's official figures. Good news. Thank you very much. Common sense. You know, the hard-working alarm clock Brit getting their say. Jez, being a smoker or drinker with a colourful private life is one thing, but I despise politicians who use their public office to get what they can for themselves, whether it's free tickets, outfits or a string of big money non-exec directorships lined up for when they leave Parliament. The political class has forgotten, in my mind, that they are elected to serve us. The swamp needs draining. Nicola in Norfolk. Good morning to Jackie. I'm walking to work today, Jez, wondering what to do. Who do I vote for? The Tories are done, Labour is done, and just when I thought a bit of hope in reform, they start taking Tory duds that were part of the problem in the last government, so they're now becoming the Tories part two. Cheer me up. I don't know what to... how am I going to cheer you up? I have to stay fully clothed. That'd make you laugh if I took my shirt off. I'm not going to do that, be thrown out the wall. It'll be all right. Have faith. I'm not giving up. I don't care. Do you know what? Actually, seriously, I was having this discussion with somebody last night. I'm not going to bang my head against the wall any more than anybody else on this. Common sense will prevail in this country. I absolutely have a belief in the British people. That belief is unswept. There are moments when you think, oh my God, but the silent majority, and I don't want to sound, I just believe they're more switched on. So, Jackie, don't worry about it. I'm on it. John in Yorkshire. Morning, Jez. Great show. This is getting to the stage where I almost feel embarrassed for Starmer, do you? He's lost his MPs, he's lost his party, he's lost the country. Not that he really ever had it. For the love of God, man, just go and give our country a chance. And that's before you start talking about his private life. And just to put the whole perspective in on the show, good morning to Anna in Surrey. She said, Jez, the minute you mention micro-penis... This is allegedly what Jeffrey Epstein had. Although somebody told me yesterday, Trump, never mind. The girls at work say, keep talk on, in the hope that she will disclose more juicy details. It was the topic of great interest with us in the office all yesterday. Jez and the micro-penis. Could I please, this is Jeffrey Epstein, right, was supposed to have a micro-penis. I'm guessing a micro-penis. Dave, does that mean a very, very small one? Yet Dave's saying that's exactly what a micro-penis is, and that's from Dave. And a very good morning to Lisa, who sent this in just about an hour ago. Morning, Lisa.
Morning, Jezza. It's Lisa from Canterbury. It's only 10 to 7, and you know, you'll laugh at this. This is how desperate I am to get rid of Starmer. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning hoping to put the news on, have a look at the mail and see that he was gone. Unfortunately, he's still hanging there by a thread. Never mind, we all live in hope. Thanks, bye.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Talk, the home of Alarm Clock Britain, the home of working British, just the home of common sense. And Christian just nailed it when he came in. He said there's a sort of palpable sense amongst our listeners and viewers this morning of a sort of a little bit of excitement, the belief that finally something might be happening with this awful, awful Prime Minister and this awful... And I'm sorry, Labour, don't say... come on and tell me why you're not awful, but you won't, will you? You won't come on. He will bunker down in number 10. His own party will turn upon him. We're on resignation watch. However, Simon from Durham, Starmer won't resign of his own accord. Despite how bad things look for him, he won't voluntarily give up power. Probably true. He's drunk on it. He wanted the power. He wanted to be PM. It's Keir first, party second, country third. He will need pushing out by his own party. Whether that happens now or somewhere down the line is anybody's guess. Kirsty's in Spain. OK. All the best. It will be Miliband, mark my words. You might be right. Bill from Rumsey. Mad Miliband is waiting to pounce. His silence is golden. Yes, you might be right. Dave. Oh, God. Morning, JK. I bet Starmer mentions breakfast clubs and lifting children out of poverty at his meeting today. Probably. Mark from Bryn Mawr. Is it Bryn Mawr? Do you know what that is? Is it? Do you know how to say that, Christian? I know it's Wales. Do you know how to say it? You're Welsh. Nobody from Bryn Mawr is hardly in Sussex, is it? Oh, I'm sorry for all those... I'm sorry for those illegal migrants who have been housed in Bryn Mawr down in Sussex. Anyway, there we go. Morning, Jez. This is Mike in Bryn Mawr. He says, so when Starmer has the decency to resign, that means David Lammy will be the acting Prime Minister. Oh, my God. That's like jumping out of the frying pan into a volcano. Brilliant. Morning, Jez. Starmer is a goner, a goner, a goner. Starmer is a goner. Oh, he's a gooner. Poor Arsenal fans, yeah. Morning, Sean. If Keith Stalin resigns, as we all hope, it means Mastermind Lammy is acting PM until a new one is appointed. I've made that point. Can we find the Mastermind clip? I mean, the world's most unintelligent... Well, one of the world's most unintelligent politicians could indeed, OK, could indeed be our next Prime Minister. Morning, Craig.
Good morning, Jeremy. This is Craig from Ilkley in Yorkshire. You just mentioned Angela Rayner and her own self-interest. Well, that's a view that I share. So she cannot become Prime Minister, in my view, and for one reason and one reason only, and that would be to keep her away from what would be the Prime Ministerial pension. She would get that in perpetuity for the rest of her life, even if she was Prime Minister just for a week. I mean, could you imagine just how many vapes and, bottles of Blue Nun that she'd be able to buy with that 100,000 plus pension every year?
Sorry, bottles of Blue Nun, it's like Liefrau Milch. The only thing for those two wines is to wash your car tyres on it. Let's say a very good morning to the First Lady of I certainly said before, First Lady of Talk, apart from Julia. Morning, lovely Isabel Oakeshott. How are you?
Well, you're really unsettling me this morning at this time, talking about variously micro penises, taking your shirt off, and now we've got Liebfraumlich into the mix as well. What is happening to our radio station? What are you doing?
Well, yesterday we had record audience figures, so more people are listening than ever before, and part of that is because you're brilliant, and I'm softening you up for the shocking news that not 35 minutes ago on this station, Isabel, your would-be fiancé, when questioned... some listener sent in the Lord of the Rings to him as a present, which we sent to the Commons, and I asked for an update on the ring, where he launched into this patience is a virtue, same line as ever. She's a very lucky lady to be marrying me. I've taken her this weekend. She's going to have to be patient. It's on record.
I heard him. My jaw was dropping.
Yeah.
I thought that you were going to let him off the hook, Jezza, because you quite rightly spent the vast majority of that interview grilling him on the most important matters of the day. And I thought, that's it. He's got away with it. But no, you popped the question at the end and he had his arguments all marshalled. And then he tried to throw it back on you, saying, well, you're a man with a bit of experience. Yeah. Maybe you can give him some top tips, Jezza.
I'll do my best. Listen, 7:45, I wanted you on. I mean, I will start as I've started all morning. When the Guardian newspaper says it's over for a Labour Prime Minister, it's over, isn't it, Isabel?
Yeah, it is over. And I mean, yesterday there was such a febrile atmosphere in the House of Commons. Obviously, I wasn't there, but I'm quite close connected to people who were. And rumours flying that, I'm sorry to say, David Lammy is being prepared to be interim Prime Minister if Keir Starmer decides to throw in the towel, because of course you wouldn't be able to have a quick leadership contest. We know it's highly unlikely that someone like Ed Miliband is just going to say to Angela Rayner, well, okay, you can have it, you know, and then we've got Wes Street, and there'll be a bunch of them that want and have some expectation that they will run to replace Keir Starmer. That process could take quite a long time. It's many, many years since we've seen a leadership contest in the Labour Party for when the Labour Party has been in office. In fact, I can't really think of it, because when Tony Blair stepped down, it was sort of automatic that it was going to Gordon Brown. So I don't actually know. I can't think how long that process takes. But in any case, it does mean that either Keir Starmer would say, look, I'll hold the fort until this new leader is elected by our parliamentarians, our members, or we'll get a David Lammy interregnum, which is a pretty horrible thought.
Is that an exclusive, what you said just now? Do you know those meetings are taking place? Is that something that you've heard, that there are discussions underway?
I'm going to caveat that because I don't have it on very good authority. But what I would say is it would be a bit of a negligent thing on the part of the Cabinet Office and the machinery of government not to be preparing somebody to take over, because how can anyone tell what is in Keir Starmer's mind? You know, he may just decide at any point in the next few days, look, I just can't do this anymore. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to have somebody who's completely unprepared for the realities of taking over that position? What the civil service does very well is make contingency plans. So I would be very surprised if David Lammy isn't being prepared for that possibility.
God help us all. There's a speech this afternoon where we're told Starmer will announce the paltry sum of £800 million. I say paltry compared to the 35 billion giving away the Chagos is costing this country, where he is going to talk about, you know, delivering improvements to local deprived areas across the UK. Lots of people are saying, could this be the moment he says, I'm calling an election, I've lost the faith of the party? I mean, yesterday...
No chance.
No, I'm with you.
No chance.
I'm with
no
you.
Way. Sorry, no way, no way, no way. We're not getting an early election, no time soon. The only way this happens is that if there is a financial crisis on such a scale that this government, under whoever is leading it at that time, is unable to get through the measures it needs to take to get the economy, to bring the economy back to life. And that is a possibility, but it isn't going to happen anytime soon. So we've got to accept we are lumped with this lot, and the best those of us can do that hope for that despair at the state of our country, that still believe it's great and it's salvageable. All we can do is plot and plan of what needs to be done to rescue the situation when there's an opportunity.
It's interesting when you said, you know, people might fold, some of the cabinet will fold. We saw it with Boris Johnson, one will go and then others will follow. That, to me, is how this is going to happen. We are on resignation watch. If you looked at that front bench yesterday during PMQs, a lot of them looked like the game was up. But I want to bring it back to Starmer if I can. I thought, Isabel, you might have watched it, I did. I thought yesterday he looked like a man who was starting to disbelieve himself and lack the belief that he could go on with this. Bade not doing a goodish job, but I just felt that he started to blink, and the silence was eerie from the Labour backbenches, because of course whatever they say, they're going to start looking at their in-trays, their emails, they're going to start looking at their majorities, and they're going to think, you know, how long have I got? Cabinet ministers are going to, and I said this, you'd know this better than anyone. Now they're sat there going, when do I show my hand? If I go too early and he survives, I'm toast. If I go too late and he's thrown out, the new person won't give me a job. That's how devious politics is, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's all that old expression, if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. And they will all be, you know, I've yet really to meet many MPs who don't secretly think that they could be Prime Minister. So there will be way more than just Angela Rayner and Ed Miliband thinking that they're going to give this a tilt. And sometimes it's a calculation. You know, you get some quite low profile contenders who figure that if they just give it a go at the early stages of a contest, they might at least get a ministerial job out of it. I mean, Angela Rayner has bravely, boldly, quite unashamedly shown her hand in what she did yesterday, and sitting on that front bench during what was a Tory debate. It was an opposition debate called by the Tories, designed to put her government on the back foot. There she was, attracting so much attention and being spectacularly unhelpful to her boss, Keir Starmer. We all know what she's up to. There's no secret about it. I believe she is busy offering jobs in an Angela Rayner administration to MPs to support her, and she's up and running. She's ready to go. The question is, that whole thing, is the person who sticks in the knife, are they the one that actually inherit the crown? And Ed Miliband is clearly playing a little bit of a quieter game, but perhaps the two of them will do a deal.
Haven't seen Miliband. His silence is golden. It's really interesting. There's so much that we can talk about. We talked about earlier on the show his lack of DNA, not really understanding the feeling. I talked yesterday about how he looks cornered. All of this is going on, and the problems in this country continue to mount up, and that will also cause massive frustration. He's got the lowest approval rating of any Prime Minister in the history of this country. And to me, there's absolutely no way for him to go on. And it sounds really interesting. I was saying to you, because you've been part of talk since the beginning, there's a sort of eerie excitement amongst the listeners and viewers this morning. They're all sort of texting going, when do you think it will happen? And I wanted to put that to you. Do you believe that he will make now the local elections, or do you think he will be forced out? Do you think anybody in the cabinet will show their hand in the next couple of days?
Well, here's the thing. So people might have got a bit confused, I certainly had, about the process now for the release of this advice that Number 10 was given, that Starmer was given, about whether or not, what were the risks associated with hiring Mandelson, giving him that top job over in Washington. And the thing is that it's going to take a matter of weeks. We're not talking days. It will take weeks for the cross-party committee, the committee made up of MPs from different parties, on the Intelligence and Security Committee, to decide what they believe can be put in the public domain without compromising any national security or diplomatic relations. So that was a big win for Keir Starmer's critics yesterday. They managed to persuade, or basically force, Downing Street to say, OK, we'll hand this over to this committee. We'll not sort of decide ourselves what you can and can't see. But that process is going to take quite a while. So the question is, does Starmer try to hang on until those papers come out, praying that those documents don't reveal something that's even more damaging to him? Or does he kind of know that in those documents it's just going to finish him? In that case, maybe he just goes sooner rather than later. I'm not convinced that he'll last till the end of this month.
Wow. An exclusive there from the First Lady. Brilliant. And and it sounds, I haven't got long, but it is just fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it sounds a terrible thing. People are saying, oh, I feel embarrassed for him. I don't. I think he's completely unsuited to the job. I think he's been one of the most disastrous prime ministers ever. And I think this Labour Party is a joke for all that they said, and, onwards and upwards. So good to have you on. I hope the weekend brings you many rings. I'll be at him. Don't you worry about that. I'm going to keep pushing, because I don't think he knows how lucky he is, but I do. Isabel Oakeshott, thank you very much indeed. Lovely to have you on. 5 to 8, we're live across the UK. It's Talk Breakfast, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Braemar is a beautiful little place nestled in Scotland, says Julie in West Sussex. It's Bryn Mawr that I was talking about, not the one in Scotland. Was that a good Welsh accent? I don't know. Morning, Alan.
Morning, JK. Alan from Swansea. Yet again, every day I wake up and it's catastrophic event with this Starmer imbecile. And see him shaking yesterday. He grabs his hand. He's been doing that for last year, because his left hand and all the right hand's doing. Absolutely hideous. But for me, the worst thing this cat has done is prosecuting our veterans free of charge. Now, don't lose sight of that, because there's so much coming out every day. We're losing track of all these scandals. He has zero respect in the veterans community. He is absolutely despicable. He needs to call a general election and let the people decide, because nobody wants this. The whole country is in a slump since this idiot came in. Remember he came in, oh, we've got all the costings, we can hit the ground running. Absolute garbage. Ta-da.
There is definitely some credence to be given to the idea of guilt by association, and mere association or mere presence doesn't indicate guilt or doesn't indicate that you actually participated in these sordid and disgusting crimes. But when you see the repetitiousness, when you see the long-term interactions where it would be very difficult for anybody to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein without knowing the reputation, without seeing the assorted detritus in his path that he's left.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's almost 8 o'clock. You are with Talks, the home of common sense and free speech. It's all about Starmer. Resignation watch for the Cabinet yesterday in Parliament. Badenoch skewered him when he finally admitted he knew about Mandelson and Epstein. Play the clip.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. 3 words that most people across the political landscape are saying signs his own death note. Loads to do in the next hour. Sarah Vine, top columnist from the Daily Mail, and author Trevor Kavanagh, ex-political editor of The Sun. We'll talk to Charlotte Callum, the Conservative MP for Gorton and Denton. Also, Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker. All that on a breakfast show from a station that yesterday was able to be told it's got more listeners than ever before. Thank you for that. We're heading to the news at 8 on Talk Breakfast, and we'll be back with Sarah Vine next after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just after 8 o'clock, Thursday, February the 5th. You are waking up to Talk Breakfast. It is the home of common sense. It's the home of alarm clock Brits and it's a radio station that has more listeners than ever before. We thank you for that. It's your chance to come on and talk. Wherever you are in the UK, you can do a voice note on 0344 499 1000. You can text us on 87222. Your take on the day's news. It's all about one story. Keir Starmer yesterday being skewered by Badenoch in the Commons and admitting, finally, that he knew about Mandelson's relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, the whole thing is as murky as you can believe. Mandelson facing a police inquiry for, and I quote, releasing confidential government information via emails to a bloke who'd been in prison for trafficking young girls. It goes beyond sick. There's Andrew to add in the mix. But we are this morning hearing all sorts of people saying there's meetings in number 10. There could be... Nobody knows. I mean, if you looked at that front bench yesterday in the House of Commons, most of them looked like they knew the game was up. Are any of them going to break cover? This whole Mandelson scandal has been likened almost to the Profumo scandal that brought down a government in the 60s. I'm going to play this clip again because this man, OK, is our Prime Minister, a man who's supposed to represent us abroad, supposed to care domestically about what happens. He's had no answers to so much in his premiership. He attacked pensioners and did a U-turn. He attacked farmers and did a U-turn. He attacked... veterans, and that's one of the biggest disgraces. He gave away sovereign islands, the Chagos Islands, and 35 billion. He's raised taxes. He's done absolutely everything that's annoyed so many people. And yesterday, he was outed as a liar. Have a watch.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. The beginning of the end, maybe. Morning, Danny.
Morning, Jezza. Danny from Langford. So when Keir Starmer does get pushed or leave or whatever he's going to do, why are we not having a general election? Why have we got to wait for some other moron to take us further down the road we're going? It should be a general election. And then the people can have their vote and then we can get in who we need to make the country great again. Have a good day, mate.
And you, pal. 8:05. I'm still in awe of my next guest. It's always a pleasure to have her on. Sarah Vine, a top author and columnist for the Daily Mail. A very good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm sure that the more I come on your show, the less you'll be in awe of me.
No, I'm not going to be. And I can see your background today. It was all out last time. Lovely.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I turned off I don't really understand the Zoom. It's got all sorts of weird filters on it. I mean, one day I'll probably appear as a cat.
No, it's... Well, you might well identify as a cat very soon. That's the way of the world. Sarah, without making it personal any which way, I think it would be fair to say you have, through your ex-husband, experienced some of the highs and lows of government, the machinations of Westminster and how things can change dramatically. But it would not be too dramatic to say this is a pretty seminal moment in our political history, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, events, dear boy. I mean, every politician is prone to things like this, but this is catastrophic. It feels like the tip of a sort of really toxic iceberg, doesn't it? And people have compared it to the Profumo scandal, but I think it's actually worse than that because the Profumo scandal was actually ultimately relatively harmless. It did bring down the Conservative government at the time, but compared to this is just sort of amplified. And the thing, what you were saying earlier about Starmer is right. He's not been a popular Prime Minister. He's not really been a successful Prime Minister. He's already on a pretty sticky wicket. And I think your caller, Danny, is also, I think what he just said will reflect what a lot of people feel, which is that they don't just, if he goes, they don't just want him replaced by somebody else. And who else? Because, I mean, Angela Rayner, who was icy yesterday in the House of Commons, gosh, that girl is scary, has got her own problems with her tax affairs. Wes Streeting was very close to Mandelson. Mandelson was, some people say, he was his mentor. So the sort of substitutes for Starmer are not exactly clean skins, as they say in Westminster themselves. So it is a quagmire.
It is a quagmire. I just want to ask you about, we can talk about what's next, but I just want to talk to you about the man himself, because I just do this and I look at this and I'm truly always amazed at how inept so many of them are. But this man, to me, from afar, doesn't seem to have, I keep saying it, he doesn't seem to have any political DNA. He doesn't seem to have the antennae to sniff out a vibe, a pulse amongst the British people. I don't know whether his advisors are rubbish, he's incompetent, but it seems to me, and we talk repeatedly about U-turns, Sarah, doesn't get much right, and looked yesterday for the first time to be cornered.
I mean, the thing is, he's a lawyer. You know, he's not really a politician. He doesn't really seem to have any other. You know, he's at best a good civil servant, I think. He just, you know, he's not a leader. But also, if you look at his record over the years, you know, he's him and Herner, who is his great mate, you know, the two human rights lawyers, they have kind of got involved in some pretty dodgy, what I would consider to be dodgy decisions. If you dig into Starmer's past, you know, he's always just been a man on the fence. You know, he's not a leader really, but you know, I think that's reflected in his polling. I mean, as you know, he wasn't even popular when he was elected as prime minister, particularly. You know, he feels like a choice that the country has made because they felt that there wasn't really anything else available. You know, he got into power with the lowest majority of any government. I think it was 32%.
He got less than Jeremy Corbyn, who I would loathe, but at least had the decency to write down what he was going to do and stand by it. Jeremy Corbyn got 34% of the election.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, all Starmer did was say the right things and press the right buttons to get elected. It's clear that he never had any kind of a plan really for government. And that's the key thing. You know, if you're going to win an election, you have to know what to do next. I mean, this Mandelson thing is one of those situations that, I mean, he could not probably have foreseen this. So it is, you know, they are events, and it is a much bigger thing than just Keir Starmer. But you know, when you're these kind of moments are when politicians are tested, and it's when you see whether they can do the job or not, whether they have any mettle, and he is very clearly and obviously failing in that respect.
I had a Labour peer on yesterday, Lord Fawkes, who decided to be personal because he couldn't answer the question, and I kept saying to him, can somebody explain to me, this is a man who apparently ignored security advice on a super Chinese embassy and totted off to Beijing to do a trade deal because his policies have screwed the economy and all small businesses are in trouble, who is saying that he didn't get any advice on Mandelson. What I'd love to know from you, if you have anything on this, is how does a man who gets sacked as many times as he got sacked, and politicians can be sacked, but dodgy loans, dodgy passports, dodgy this, dodgy that. The question for so many of my listeners this morning, and they're texting their droves, is how much dirt must this man have on the Labour machine to have survived for so long, Sarah?
Well, I mean, the answer is probably he does know where a lot of the bodies are buried. I think I was listening to the radio this morning, and apparently this story is cutting through, as they say in Westminster, like no other. Sort of 99% of the population are following it. And I think the thing about Mandelson is he's been in politics for a very long time. He's a figure who has been, you know, he was around with Blair. He was causing trouble back in, I think, what was it, 1998, 1999. So this man is a real... you know, he's very visible in British politics and has been over a period of decades, and everybody knows who he is. And so therefore, the fact that he's involved in this horrible Epstein thing it makes people think, well, you know, has the corruption just been going on for the last 30, you know, it's really damaging British politics generally and the perception of politicians, because the logical conclusion is this guy's been around for 3 decades. He's obviously a bad un. He was a bad un at the beginning. He's still a bad un. Honestly, how many others are there like him? How far do the tentacles go? How deep does this stuff go? How terrible is the rot? And it really is a rot. And so, you know, as a voter, you think, gosh, I mean, I've always been one of those people who's slightly been dismissive of these, you know, conspiracy theories, you know, the world is run by a cabal of lizards or whatever it is. But this whole sort of Epstein thing, you feel, well, maybe it is run by a cabal.
It's sort of espionage and drugs and sex and lies and blackmail.
There
And
he is in his pants.
it's a nappy, Sarah. It's not pants. It's got to be a nappy.
And you know, what is that? Is that a covert camera? So if so, what other things did that camera see?
Yep.
Where are those pictures? Are we going to see those one day? It feels like you know, it feels like The Night Manager. You know, he's Richard Roper. It's just really bizarre. It's life imitating art, and it feels really destabilizing if you're a normal person who just thinks, well, I vote for somebody who's a politician who then does a job and, you know, sorts out my bins or whatever it is. This is on a whole other different scale.
And there's so much to this, you know, like judgment. You know, for me, I mean, to me, he goes to jail. I don't know what you think. I think he goes to jail. I think his time is up. I think Mandelson will definitely serve time. And let's talk about, as you said, the seriousness of allegedly releasing secrets via email to a convicted paedophile that might well have been used because of the market crash to make money for Jeffrey Epstein.
We know that Epstein was heavily involved in business and in the markets and all of that kind of thing. I mean, to be honest, even if he'd been releasing those secrets to somebody else, you know, it would still be insider trading, and that's a criminal offence in this country. Yeah. You know, you don't have a position of power like that and then use it to effectively, I mean, we'd have to be a bit careful here because of course he'll have to go to trial and all that sort of stuff and he'll be investigated, but you don't use your insider knowledge of government decisions to feather your nest, because we know that after Mandelson left government, you know, he did go to Epstein, and Epstein did help him get a lot of very well-paid jobs in the financial sector, extremely well-paid jobs. I mean, millions of dollars. So, you know, what was this? Was this him saying, "Here you go. Here's some stuff you can use, and then, you know, make sure that, you know, you scratch my back when I get fired in a year's time or whatever." It just feels unbelievably.
It's so grubby, isn't it? An £8 million house in Notting Hill that's now worth 20 million that he paid for, but his husband couldn't afford 12 grand for an osteopathy course and had to have that off Jeffrey Epstein. The whole thing is so murky. The judgment of Starmer in employing him appalling. The Labour Party, as you said, is not famous for getting rid, but I just really would love to hear your prediction. How long do you think Sarah Viney lasts?
Well, let's think about Boris Johnson, who lost his job for much less. I mean, you know, there was the whole thing with Chris Pilcher, which was the straw that broke the camel's back with Boris Johnson, and he basically had to go because he appointed somebody that turned out to be quite unpleasant. And, you know, so if you draw a parallel there, I'd say that Keir Starmer can't survive. But the thing is, the desperation of politicians to stay in power once they get power is not something that should be underestimated. And I'm sure he will, he will cling on squirming for as long as he possibly can. There's no doubt about that. Angela Rayner, can she replace him? I mean, yes. I mean, I think she has the support of the party, but whether she has the support of the country, you know, not very long ago there she was, you know, not paying the correct stamp duty on her flat, on her second home in Brighton. You know, it's not a great look for a Labour Prime Minister. I think Kemi Badenoch has done very well in, you know, drawing attention to all this in the House of Commons. I mean, she's come into her own, actually. She is very good at this kind of stuff.
I describe her as William Hague. I'd love your take on this. I think she's probably the right person at the wrong time.
Well, I think that may well turn out to be the case, but she is definitely.
She's grown into it, hasn't she? She's grown into it.
I mean, she has a problem that goes way beyond any personal rating. She has a problem that the Conservative Party, as a brand, has a serious reputational problem, which she needs to clean it up. She needs to reposition it, and that will take time. And whether she will have that time we just don't know. So, yeah, but as a politician, as an individual, I think she's been very impressive in all of this.
No, I agree. What comes next? Interesting, complete silence and never to be seen Ed Miliband. But I know that you like a laugh. If, and you say won't, but if Starmer is forced out, and you're going to have to allow me to have a laugh.
You're not going to say that. Don't say that. Don't say Ed Miliband as Prime Minister. Don't say
No, I'm going to tell tell you that there are allegedly, and we're going to say there's already conversations in 10 Downing Street, that there would have to be an interim. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to play a little clip, because if anything happens and Starmer is forced out, this man would be your interim Prime Minister. This is David Lammy on Mastermind, ladies and gentlemen.
What was the married name of the scientists Marie and Pierre who won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1903 for their research into radiation?
Antoinette.
Curie. Which fortress was built in the 1370s to defend one of the gates of Paris and was later used as a state prison by Cardinal Richelieu?
Versailles.
The Bastille. James Gandolfini played a mafia boss called Tony in which American television series?
Godfather.
The Sopranos. Who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547?
Henry VII.
Edward VI. In chemistry, what French word is used for a tube for transferring measured amounts of liquids?
Pass.
Which country's so-called Rose Revolution of 2003 led to the resignation of its president, Edward Shevardnadze?
Yugoslavia.
No, it was Georgia.
Sarah.
It never gets old, does it?
It
It
doesn't, does it? He could be an interim Prime Minister. Doesn't that give us all hope we can achieve anything in life?
The Marie Antoinette, honestly, and just. But this is a man who thinks you can grow a cervix. He said that.
Oh.
As I understand it, a man can grow a cervix.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, he's just tumbleweed in between the ears, isn't it?
If it wasn't so frightening, where we're at, it is fascinating. And I was going to say,
if it wasn't, I mean, if it's laughable. It is literally laughable. I mean, it's not a joke, but it is laughable that someone like that could be anywhere near the levers of power.
Absolutely agree. And just to finish, there's this extraordinary feeling amongst the listeners this morning. We had a great audience yesterday and all that sort of, and there's this sort of palpable excitement. They're all literally believing, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, that something is afoot. And they're all quoting Quentin on the front of your paper yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Punctured perhaps beyond repair, Sakir deflated before our eyes, Kemi kept bayoneting him from Labour MPs, a cold and sinister silence.
Yeah. There is. Yeah. I mean, I wonder, where is Nigel Farage in all of this, do you think?
Busy running around doing his thing. I think, I don't know, I can't speak for Nigel Farage, but I would suspect Reform would be happy for him to probably stay in the role, wouldn't they, Keir Starmer? I don't know. I mean, what is the alternative?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people who sort of almost don't want... I mean, a lot of people, I think, in the Labour Party, but also in the Conservative Party, and I suspect in Reform, who feel that actually there's a lot to be gained from Starmer staying, because the longer he stays, the worse the outcome will be for Labour.
And I also have to add this before we finish, genuinely, that people always go, some Labour peer shouted at me yesterday and said, well, what about Liz Truss? What about Liz Truss? I said, we're not talking about Liz Truss, we're talking about Keir Starmer. Well, what about you? Why did you get sacked from ITV? Well, we're going to talk about what we're talking about here, which is the fact that this man...
Reflection.
I mean, can we just talk about this man? What about financially, though? Bear in mind 35 billion, right, for the Chagos Islands. Bear in mind we're paying 10 or 12 billion a month in interest on debts we can't afford to pay back, and yet this government seems to find money when it needs to for crazy things and screw the rest of this country. Can you see or foresee a situation where somewhere down the line that the financial institutions say, we're skint, we're broken, we haven't got confidence, like they did with Liz Truss?
Yeah, and just pull the plug, exactly. I mean, he's going to be... I mean, all of this stuff is incredibly market sensitive. If you've got a weak... And again... So if we just pull back a little bit from this whole thing, the suggestion which has been made that Epstein was working for the Russians and for Putin, and that this was all about compromat. The absolute playbook is to destabilize as much as possible, to destabilize democracies, to destabilize successful economies, and this is exactly what we're seeing. This is undermining confidence in the British government, in its ability to function. It's fracturing our politics internally. It's creating chaos. And that is what our enemies want. This is China will be sitting watching this, rubbing their hands together.
Yeah.
Putin will be the same. Here we are in meltdown again. This is all great. This is all grist to their mill. That's the thing.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's the problem, is that we, as a country, we are fracturing politically and culturally, and it's pulling everything apart. It's putting off investment. It's making people think twice about spending money. Even just ordinary people are not going to go. If you feel like your whole world is potentially about to collapse at any moment, you don't go and buy a new fridge, do you? So that all kind of rolls together, and this is what we're seeing. And Epstein had been doing this over a period of decades. And talk about Andrew, formerly known as Prince. Again, the royal family, an institution, a solid institution, a sort of rock in many ways. Everyone talks about that's what its function is. When times are difficult or complicated or unstable, everyone can look at the royals and go, well, at least that's something that is immovable. It's no longer immovable.
No, it's not.
It's not. I mean, we may face a situation where Andrew may end up in court on criminal charges. I mean, look at him. He looks off his head. What's he doing?
But you know that somebody actually who was a defender, you're going to love this, I'd love your reaction, said, I think you're being grossly unfair. He's performing CPR. And honestly, really, it's not a model. I mean, honestly, I'm with you on that. The very institution, the monarchy, in my mind, is in trouble. I fear they're going to have
trouble. It's in real trouble, and the king has done a lot already. And I'm assuming that the reason he did what he did so went so far was because he saw all this stuff and knew what was coming down the line. But I mean, if he does face charges, I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, I think Princess Anne has been fined for her dogs or something. But I mean, there's never been a situation where a member of the royal family has had to face such accusations.
You brought it full square round to the first story I read this morning was that Mr. Micro-Penis Boy Epstein and the former prince asked a stripper for a threesome. Honestly, the whole...
So that was the thing that I found so shocking yesterday, was that the idea that they got this stripper in, they were together, and they asked her if they could have a threesome.
But don't you find more shocking that a royal prince and a billionaire offered her 10 grand and only paid her 2, and she decided to sue them?
Well, I mean, fair enough. But I mean, but you see, the thing about Andrew that I just can't understand is that, he was known as, he was a prince of the realm. He was theoretic, dashing. If he'd wanted girls, presumably he could have got them in the sort of time-honoured fashion of going to a bar and chatting them up and buying them a drink. Why does he need to get involved in some sort of awful sex trafficking ring? And also, so actually maybe you can answer this question. What is it about these men that they seem to get pleasure from having sex or relation, whatever, with these very vulnerable girls?
Why are you thinking that I can answer this?
Well, if you're a man.
Okay, I would say that people like... Good. I would say people like...
That's the only reason, because I don't get it, because I don't understand why you would
Because it's all about entitlement, and I guess...
It's about power.
The reason we talk about micropenis, there's a reason. I suspect that Jeffrey Epstein was never able to satisfy a woman and did it in other ways, by flashing his money and surrounding himself with women and ingratiating himself with friends. I think Andrew is an appalling example of an over-entitled prig who for years has got away with murder, genuinely because his mother always saw him as his favourite. And no way am I going into reasons why I think that's the case, not at all, because I'll be sued. But I just think they've been allowed to get away, and with behaviour that escalates, you then end up with behaviour that the rest of us go, what? It's like I said earlier about Farage, right? I saw an interview where someone said, so, Mr. Farage, you gamble, you smoke, you've been married, and he went, yeah, all four. Now, can we talk about politics? I'm sick to death of people pretending to be squeaky clean. There was you'll love this, and I'll let you go. After my thing with the show and the 6 years of the legal thing, I phoned up the KC about 3 weeks later and I said, "Are you all right, Neil?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm good." I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm at the Labour Party conference." I said, "What are you doing there?" He said, Jez, you paid me enough money. I am the best defamation KC in England." And he said, "Politicians account for 90% of my income." I went, "Right." And he said, "Do you know the only difference between the Tory party and the Labour Party?" And I went, "No." And he went, "The Tories like cocaine and rent boys, and the Labour Party want as much damn money as they can get from anybody." And I've kept that in my mind forever. I don't think it's a particularly good class. Politicians, and Andrew, he's just an entitled pain in the backside, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is, and I think he's not. Just not a very nice person. I mean, the point that I'm sort of trying to make about all these horrible men is that, they're all incredibly powerful. The list of names is extraordinary. They're all incredibly powerful, and they all seem to think they're just. I think it's quite misogynistic. They all obviously like, hurting women in some way, shape,
But
or
I
form.
think I think that hides a problem they've probably got. Listen, I could talk to you forever. I love having you on, and we like the background today. Sarah Vine, will you come back next week?
Yes, please. Love to, if you'll have me. Yeah. Doesn't have to be on Thursday. I can do other days too.
Always. Thank you so much indeed. Sarah Vine, author and Daily Mail columnist. Fantastic. Loads of you have been asking, by the way, because it went on social media, did you fall out with a Labour peer yesterday? Yeah, I did. Have a listen.
We're doing all the things we promised, one after the other.
Well, hold on a second. Now we're going to have a massive argument. You told the farmers you'd look after them. Lie. You told the waspy women you'd look after them. Lie. You told the pensioners you'd look after them. Lie. Come on, Lord Fawkes, be honest with me. You've lied.
Be honest, Jeremy. Why did you get kicked off your previous?
Now that's the lowest I've ever heard, and about sums up why the Labour Party is on its arse.
No.
That's the truth. You have no political argument. You want to resort to that. I'll tell you what you can do, Lord Fawkes. You can get off my damn show and do one. Bye-bye. We'll carry on with the next bloke. Sorry, Lord Cullings. Go on, let's talk to... I'm not talking to him.
Many in public life, many journalists, many commentators, including me, said at the time this was a mistake and he was the wrong man for the job.
Being self-righteous.
Nothing with hindsight.
This is
Nothing
not,
with hindsight.
This is not about
He's
Keir
a nasty
Starmer.
little piece
This
of
is
work.
not about Keir
He's a
Starmer.
wrong 'un.
It's
He's a
not about the
proven
bit.
liar. He was best mates with a paedophile. He thought that was okay. He didn't believe the girl who'd been solicited for prostitution. And you're happy to be mates with him. I don't think he's fit for public office.
Nor do I.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:32. You would talk. The radio station that has more of you listening than ever before. Thank you for that. It's breakfast. We're here till 10. 0344 499 1000. It's home of common sense. So earlier, Steve Reid, who's the Environment Secretary, who used to come on drive time all the time but now doesn't take our calls, did what they call the round, which is they send out a minister every morning. And they talk to everybody, bar talk, because we might criticise them. Anyway, Steve Reid this morning decided to deflect and say, this whole thing's nothing to do with Keir Starmer. Have a watch, have a listen.
I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach when I found out what Mandelson had been up to. The person at fault here is not the Prime Minister or his team. It is Peter Mandelson who lied, manipulated and deceived everybody. He conned everybody.
That's him defending his boss, because his boss gave him his job, and I presume if his boss goes, he might not get that job. Morning, Tony.
Morning, Jeremy. Tony from North Somerset. Did I just hear Steve Reid right on that news clip? The fact that Starmer knew about Mandelson and Epstein, he still appointed him. Steve Reid's deflecting. He's a moron. They're all morons. Get them gone.
All right, Somerset. Morning, Rach. Let's be absolutely frank about this. If Rayner becomes PM, she will be a total embarrassment to this country. Ethiopia. Crass, completely unedifying character. She will be even more of a laughing stock than we are right now, really. Morning to Steve Lang. Jez. Makes me sick knowing once Starmer is ousted, the git will take home £100,000 plus pension a year for the rest of his life. The most of us will be lucky to get 12. Morning, Jez, says Richard Akers. Could Starmer do a rishi by going to the King, dissolving Parliament and calling a general election? It would be the ultimate kick in the balls for those plotting to replace him, maybe. Starmer is a slippery snake, mark my words, says Reg. He will hang on until the end, until the local elections, and when that goes wrong, they'll throw Morgan McSweeney under the bus, and then he will carry on as if nothing has ever happened, I bet you. I don't think that can happen, Reg. I think once your party turns against you, once they look at that in tray, the emails, they think about their own careers, and I'm telling you this is true, but here's a man who would know this better than anybody, former political editor of The Sun, the legend that is Trevor Kavanagh. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
In your lifetime, have you seen anything this deep since the Profumo affair? Genuine question.
Well, to be absolutely honest, Jeremy, that was even before my time. But
I know it was, but I mean, I'm talking about looking. I mean, obviously, yes. I mean, Trevor's been around since World War I. I mean, looking at it, can you imagine in all that you covered, have you ever heard something as dark and as murky as this?
Dark, murky, and totally avoidable. That's the thing. It was unnecessary to do this. Everything that we now know about Peter Mandelson, at least in broad brush terms, was available, not only available, but we were writing it. At the time, we were writing the fact that he stayed at Epstein's flat in New York while Epstein was actually in jail for paedophile crime. So if we knew, surely Downing Street's advisors knew when Keir Starmer appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador. I mean, that's just the beginning. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But there's no way that Downing Street can claim that they were misled.
I mean, a great piece on page 10 this morning, Oh Mandy and the seedy hypocrisies of Gordon and Keir. I mean, I want to ask you this in a direct way. We've seen Gordon Brown come out and be indignant and go to the Met Police and say, this is a cover-up. But he brought him back into government. To me, right, for a man who most of us with a brain cell could see was a manipulative, devious, dodgy, dark, dirty man, and I don't even talk about his friendships, I'm talking about his business and political dealings, how much muck must he have on these people to have had more comebacks than Sinatra? I mean, dodgy passports, dodgy loans, dodgy this, dodgy that. How was he still up to a few months ago, Trevor, still going round the back into Downing Street telling McSweeney who should be in the cabinet reshuffle?
I don't think he used that sort of leverage on people like Blair and Brown. I think that the one thing that very few people do actually home in on with Mandelson is that when it comes to politics, he was a very clever manipulator, and he pioneered the sort of methods that got Tony Blair into government with a big majority. So there was that debt that was owed to him, and he beguiled a lot of people with his rather serpent-like way of dealing with issues, and quite successfully in the process. So that was his strength. His weakness was that he just simply became utterly addicted to anyone with money. Every single one of the downfalls that he has, every resignation has been linked to someone who's super rich. Whether it was the man who paid for his mortgage and Jeffrey Robinson, whether it was the Hinduja brothers and the passports, or whether it was Jeffrey Epstein, or more ominously, I think, and yet to be fully investigated, Oleg Deripaska, the Russian aluminium tycoon, and according to the Sun today, or according to David Davis in Parliament, paedophile and gangster.
I mean, just you talked about beguiling people. I don't want to be as specific because that would be unprofessional, but even I noticed yesterday with a couple of journalists in the building, nothing to do with our papers, and a couple of people on the show, there was still a couple of them who didn't want to criticise, who Stu said he was a marvellous guy who did a lot of work, and they were almost, Trevor, defending him as if this beguiling or it was still there. I didn't understand that at all.
No, well, you probably read Danny Finkelstein and Matthew Paris in the papers over the last couple of days, and they all give a great deal of weight to the fact that there were redeeming pluses to the Mandelson character. And I mean, look, I've been in his company and he's very smiley and very articulate, very lucid, and it is easy to believe that he knows what he's talking about. That is why he became business secretary and trade commissioner with the European Union and ambassador. So, you cannot take that away from him, but nor can you take away the smell of corruption that has lingered around him from the moment he appeared in the public eye of 30 years ago.
For you, with all of your experience, bringing it back to Starmer, is it all over for Starmer, and if so, when, in your experience?
It's all over. I mean, it's a dead man walking. I think that it's a matter of time. The time will be when it's convenient to the Labour Party to replace him. That could be as soon as, for instance, the result of the looming by-election on the 26th in Manchester, in which Labour simply cannot expect to do anything better than a single-figure percentage win. And I think that if he lasts past that, it will be the local elections. The only question really is not whether or when he goes, but who replaces him. And the really worrying fact is that nearly everybody on the right is tainted with association with Mandelson. That includes Wes Streeting and others. And I think that you now have only one choice that the Labour Party is likely to come up with. It is a combination of Angela Rayner and Ed Miliband.
Oh, God, Trevor, I'm going to have to leave it there, but I've got another hour and 20 minutes before I can go and throw up. Legend, thank you so much indeed. Trevor Cavan, former political editor of The Sun, his take on this developing story. We are on resignation watch for cabinet ministers. Yesterday, Angela Rayner stood up and stuck the knife right between Keir Starmer's shoulder blades. You've heard Trevor, one of the most respected political journalists, saying he is a dead man walking. Next, the opinion of the former Commons Deputy Speaker, Nigel Evans, next on Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 18 minutes to 10. Yeah, listen, keep it Julia, keep it Talk. We are wondering what will develop today. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to keep saying it, and for more of you listening than ever before. We found that out yesterday. It's the home of common sense and free speech. Now, ahead of Nigel Evans, actually, who's got a technical problem. God, the aged. I want to go back to the Gorton and Denton by-election. We said that we would cover this when we're broadcasting. It has to be straight and right down the middle when there's a vote involved. I need to list for you the candidates, because yesterday we spoke to Matt Goodwin, the Reform MP. Up next, we're going to speak to Charlotte Cadden from the Conservative Party. Other candidates, Nick Buckley from Advance UK. Dan Clark is standing for the Libertarian Party. Matt, as we said, Goodwin for Reform. Sebastian Moore, the Social Democratic Party. Joseph O'Meara from Rejoin the EU. Jackie Piercy, the Liberal Democrats. Hannah Spencer from the Green Party. Angelica Stoggia from the Labour Party. Hugo Wills, the Communist League. And Sir Oinkalot, I know, the monster raving loony party. We say a very good morning to the Conservative candidate in the upcoming by-election in Gorton, Charlotte Cadden. Charlotte, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Not at all. I guess the first question should be, and it's quite an obvious one, Gorton, Denton, it's an interesting constituency. It has different and diverse demographics, would be the correct way to describe it. What are you hearing on the doorstep, Charlotte?
Well, as you say, I mean, it's an interesting area, Gorton and Denton. It's been Labour for forever, really. It's classed as a Labour stronghold. From what I'm hearing over the last few days, I mean, you know, I was chosen as the Conservative candidate just on Sunday because we've been through a democratic process, which is the right thing to do. So from people on the doorstep, we've got issues around antisocial behaviour. I know from my background, I've worked in policing in Greater Manchester for the last 27 years, and I know that there's issues around organised crime. People on the doorstep are just completely fed up of this Labour council locally. You may have heard that, you know, there are inappropriate comments in WhatsApp groups. Partly why this by-election has come about is because the previous Labour MP has been suspended. So there's a lot to kind of get into the detail here. But I just think, you know, as we go through this conversation, hopefully I can show you and show some of the people, the residents of Gorton and Denton, that maybe it's time to try a different way, and that's via the Conservatives. What is the different way? What are the main policies? You talked about local issues, and that's become a highlight already of the campaign. But you know, are people talking about how long Starmer's got, or are they talking about the potholes in front of their front door? I think that's a really important issue. I think neither at a grassroots level, to be fair. I think people are very concerned about the sexual abuse of young girls. We know that Kemi has managed to do some, you know, to get the current government to U-turn on several policies over the last few months. And one of the most important ones of those was to force a statutory inquiry into the grooming gangs, where young girls who are now women in Tameside, Gorton and Denton, they want a proper inquiry into how this has been allowed to carry on with groups of men across the UK, and particularly in Greater Manchester, in this particular area and in neighbouring districts, how that is allowed to continue, because people have been frightened to speak up because of fears of being called racist. Are you still hearing on the doorsteps negativity because of the way that the 14 years of Tory government ended, Charlotte? I think if you look at some of the things that the Conservatives managed to get through over the past 14 years, people say that, you know, what did you do in the last 14 years? We delivered EU exit, which was a national referendum. There's still a lot of work to be done on that. But one of the issues why people voted for the EU exit was to reduce immigration. Uncontrolled mass immigration affects local services, and that's one of the things that people are telling me on the doorstep of Gorton and Denton. You'll know that I have to do this job. We have a thing called PERDA during an election. We are as balanced as we can be. I know this is going to be a campaign. I heard from Matt Goodwin from Reform yesterday, and he said that he'd already had to deal with
a very wrongful advert that had cut up a part of a speech. The Telegraph 3 days ago had a story, reform-based, that criticised you because you fundraised for a pro-migrant charity. You took part in a sponsored run in aid of a group, Charlotte, which later published asylum guides which offered advice to migrants on how to get into and stay into this country. I want to give you the chance, I think it's correct, to answer that to the people who are listening this morning.
So that is a complete smear. It's factually incorrect. In 2011, I did a charity fund run for a charity that used to support same-sex attracted LGB people, of which I am a member of that community. So that was important to run for gay marriage as it was at the time because it was so long ago.
Yep.
That charity then morphed into an LGBTQIA plus charity and started to advise all sorts of different groups inappropriately, in my view. I've completely distanced myself from that since those days. I actually wanted just to raise money for charity, which is something that I've done throughout my whole life, throughout my career as well.
Is it? I wanted to give you that opportunity because I think it's really important. Because what's being said is that this campaign is going to be very, very, I don't like to use it, but dirty and personal. Are you ready for that?
I'm more than ready for that. I've been a police officer for 30 years, and I'm pretty thick-skinned because I understand that people are generally not abusing me personally. They'll be abusing me because of my beliefs. And I'll give you one very good example of that. I believe there are two sexes. I know that sets me apart from every other party in this race. And the fact that there are two sexes and the fact that those other parties do not believe that is that they've all got harmful policies in terms of women and girls and freedom of speech. Let's look at the puberty blocker trial that's about to start. Have we got young people in Gorton and Denton who've previously had puberty blockers on the NHS, and that has absolutely damaged their futures? I
don't think you should get me on that because this section has to be you telling me. I think I can't even talk. I can't. It annoys me too much. In terms of you in the next few weeks, I think all candidates have accepted it's going to be quite bruising. It's as you said, quite an interesting and different area. You're up for the challenge. What would you say if you knocked on my door and I went, listen, I used to vote Tory, but you let me down so much, I'm not listening. You know, Badenoch might be doing good. She might, though, in my mind, be the right person at the wrong time. How are you going to get my vote, Charlotte Cadden?
I'm going to say to you that if you are thinking of voting for a different party, think about those policies that they hold. If you think that reform is the right answer, just look at what's happened over the past few days in Parliament. They can't get their act together. They've got totally uncosted, unrealistic policies in terms of business rates, things of that nature. They can't agree amongst themselves what they want to do about their left-wing policies like welfare, the child credit tax. It's just chaos. So I think if you want, a party that is driven by a leader who understands what the policies need to be in terms of banning phones from classrooms, reducing business rates in an appropriate way, leaving the ECHR so that we can control our borders. Kemi has a plan to deliver stronger borders and a stronger economy. And I would ask you just to look at the detail of those policies and be aware of what people are telling you on the doorstep. And get into the detail.
Charlotte, it's really good to meet you and I wish you luck. As I said, we obviously do this in the right and correct way. John Curtis, the pollster, spoke yesterday. One final question. How do you see the campaign going? Who do you think is going to win the seat?
I think it's all to play for. I think the residents of Gorton and Denton are totally hacked off with how Labour have performed locally. And I know that most people in the country are very concerned about what's happened over the last sort of 48 hours in terms of Peter Mandelson and how the Prime Minister has dealt with that. So it's all to play for. Great to have you on. Charlotte Cadden, the Conservative candidate for the Gorton and Denton by-election, February the 26th. Just to repeat, Nick Buckley standing for Advance, Dan Clark for the Libertarian Party, Matt Goodwin for Reform UK, Sebastian Moore for the Social Democratic Party, Joseph Omiche rejoined the EU, Jackie Pearcey from the Liberal Democrats, Hannah Spencer from the Greens, Angelica Sogia for the Labour Party, Hugo Wills, the Communist League, and Sir Oinkelot for the Monster Raving Lunar Party. Stay tuned over the coming days and weeks. This slot, we will interview as many, well, we will, of course,
course, offer every single candidate the opportunity to come on and give you as balanced a view as we possibly can. It's 8 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Nigel Evans, where are you? Your technology isn't working. No wonder you didn't make it higher up the political ladder, man. What's going on? Let's say good morning to Mark in Glasgow very quickly. How are you, Marky?
I'm as well as can be expected, as I always like to say, and good morning.
Go on, tell me what you want to say.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
Right. There's one name not appearing in all of the Mandelson scandals, which is very, very closely tied.
I know what you're going to say.
Well, let me say it then. There's one gentleman, I use that word advisedly, who owes 2 election wins and becoming Labour Prime Minister to Mandelson, who, despite mortgage fraud by Mandelson, made him a cabinet minister, then sent him over to be a commissioner at the EU, where they have ultimate unelected power to make laws for the EU, not the Parliament, and he committed more fraud over there, or alleged fraud, let's say. And then I think has been standing behind Starmer and getting Starmer to sort of jump like a little puppet, and got Starmer to take Mandelson up as the UK ambassador for the United States. So Mr. Blair, Sir Tony, I believe, these days, Mr. Blair has been remarkable in keeping his name out of all of these scandals. So I just wonder how long it is before it breaks.
Isn't he part of the Board of Peace in Gaza?
He is currently. But
the man that took us into an illegal war and made about 60 million quid, or was that his son?
Oh, no. His son is a multi-billionaire now, and Tony admits to having 280 million, but we suspect has got many, many hundreds of millions stashed overseas somewhere.
Wow, it's all going on, isn't it? It's a murky and dark time. It's a bit like the Profumo affair. Thank you to Mark in Glasgow. Very quickly, we'll head south to Brighton. Paul, you're on Talk Breakfast, literally 1 minute. What you got, kiddo?
Yeah, hello, Jeremy. Well, the last caller really took the words right out of my mouth. But what I say also is, if Mandelson doesn't go down for this, then what does that say about our justice system when Lucy Connolly gets put away for 18 months? Preaching about burning down a premier.
Your phone's not very good, man. You need to speak into the voice piece. It's a new concept. Put your mouth over the hole.
Sorry,
God, this is supposed to...
Jeremy, have you got me now?
Oh, there we are. Yeah, new concept, yes. Quick, hurry up.
Yeah, the last caller really took the words right out of my mouth regarding Blair. But if Mandelson doesn't go down for this, Jeremy, then what does it say about our justice system when people like Lucy Connolly get put away?
Mate, I could not agree with you. I could not agree with you more, and I have to be quick, but mate, I think you are spot on. The way Lucy Connolly was dealt with in Hermer and 31 months and fast-tracked as against these sleazeballs who need to be brought to justice. We can only keep fighting the fight and hope we manage it. Eventually, Paul in Brighton spoke into the phone. God bless you. Right, it's almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Talk Breakfast. I've got the Rees-Mogg brother and sister duo next. That's all coming up after the news at 9. Ahead of that, morning, Laura. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. Obviously, the news is extremely interesting. It's just compulsive listening on your show today. But the irony that maybe it's worth pointing out is that Kemi's skewering of that empty, hollow shell of a man yesterday will probably bring his downfall and will probably end up with someone much worse than him, like Rayner or, God help us, Lammy. And the other irony is obviously that it was the Tories who put him there in the first place by behaving so badly and doing such a terrible job. Though I'm very pleased he's going to go, I'm very worried about what the immediate future holds for us. Great show.
to say that, journals like the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which this article has been published in, have played their part in that. They are publishing this absolute nonsense. The fundamental sort of nature of these experiments is flawed because all these athletes can underperform. And it's also a gross insult to say that men who are hobbled by taking hormones or whatever are women.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Of me following migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning all around the clock to late at night, to the point where on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 9 o'clock. You're welcome to Talk. It is the home of common sense. It's the home of working Brits and alarm clock Brits. And we thank you because yesterday we discovered that more of you are listening than ever before. Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10, Ian Collins from 1. You're waking up or switching or tuning in to one story. There's only one story in town. I keep saying this. Yesterday in the Commons, Kemi Badenoch badgered Starmer. We know all about Mandelson, the accusations that he sent emails to the perverted paedophile Epstein with real government secrets that he could have used either in his network of dodgy friends or even to make money in the markets. That's an ongoing case. The police will decide whether the pant man needs to go to prison. I think so. But yesterday, it was all about your judgment, Keir Starmer, that has been called into question about 15 U-turns a time. But did you know about the depth of the relationship? No. Then this. Have a listen, have a watch.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister?
Yes, it did.
3 words that even The Guardian, that left-wing rag, believe signal the end. It's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs amid fury over Mandelson. There was a revolt led by Angela Rayner. She stood up and said, you've got to be more transparent. He is definitely on the ropes. We are at Talk on resignation watch. Maybe not for him, but it happened to Boris Johnson over a piece of cake. How many cabinet ministers, how many MPs are going to start looking at those email inboxes and go, this man's a bloody liability. If I want my job, we've got to make change. Not a sight of Ed Miliband. He's definitely plotting. Streeting on the right, sorry to say this, they're all very close to Mandelson. Rayner's apparently acquired a £1 million war chest and is on manoeuvres. It's all going on. Our first guest this hour is a man who spent 30 years in the Commons, latterly as the Deputy Speaker, and I can officially reveal is not in the Epstein files. Good morning, Nigel Evans.
Good morning. If only, Jeremy. Yeah, no, never met the man.
Mate, in all of your experience, we've got Anusiata Rees-Mogg in just a sec. Have you ever been involved, watched or had an opinion on a political situation in all of your life? I mean, this reminds me of Profumo. This really does.
Yeah, no, the answer's no. I was in the House of Commons for 32 years, and yesterday, as it was approaching 12 o'clock, I was around about London near Fortnum and Masons, and I went across the road and I tuned in to Prime Minister's questions.
Yeah.
I've never done that before because I knew that day it was going to be quite spectacular. And I didn't realise how spectacular it was. And you've just played the clip where Kemi he absolutely skewered the Prime Minister by asking him that one simple question. Did he know? Yes, he did. And that, for me, just said absolutely everything. He couldn't say, no, he didn't, because he did. And there's enough evidence to show now that he did know that he appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the United States of America when he knew the relationship between Mandelson and Epstein was incredibly close, and yet he still insisted on overruling everybody that warned him not to do it. He did it. He took the risk. He took the chance.
And this is my question, Nigel. This is what I don't get. You would know more about this because you've been involved in I'm going to say the dark side, but the shenanigans that is the Parliament. I can sit here and say the man's got no moral compass, he's got no brain cells, he doesn't seem to have a plan, right?
Yeah.
But all I can come away from this entire story, and all of my listeners that have been involved this morning, is he must know where the bodies are buried, and he must have, Mandelson, as much muck on people across the Labour Party to have survived dodgy loans, dodgy passports, this. The man is obviously a liability, but has held the Labour Party in the palm of his hand for so long. And if he goes down, because I think he'll go to prison, I make no secret of saying that. You can say I think he will do. Is he going to squeal? How many will go down with him? Because this is serious stuff, man.
If you think that my book that I'm writing, Jeremy, is interesting, and I know you think it is, because I'm on chapter 25, can you imagine the book that Peter Mandelson could write about the Labour Party? Peter Mandelson has nothing left to worry about now. He's got absolutely nothing. He's been thrown under the bus by Gordon Brown and then latterly by Peter Mandelson. He's got absolutely nothing left. He's going to write that book. And can you imagine how interesting that book is going to be? Because it is going to be about his time in Parliament, his time when he was sacked twice, his time when he was brought back by Gordon Brown and made Foreign Secretary. It's going to be an incredible book. He knows where the bodies are buried because he buried most of them. It's going to be a fascinating insight into the book of New Labour.
He's a bit of a sleazeball, though, isn't he? I mean, I can't, the unedifying view of the pants and all that, and taking all that aside, the £8 million house, whilst your husband, who's whatever Ronaldo is getting 12 grand off Epstein for an osteopathy course. 75 grand in 325 grand instalments I didn't know went into my bank account. What I found really interesting yesterday, which you haven't done, which is why I love you, is there were journalists that came on programmes on this station yesterday and journalists in the building who were still trying to defend this piece of whatever. Does he have tentacles that spread so far? Because the man... I mean, do you know what I thought one of the lowest things was on Monday, that we were the only Tuesday I picked up on and I kept playing? Somebody did this once in television, I won't name names. Oh, I didn't know what was going on the island, I'm gay, he says. Well, there's a picture of him in his underpants with a semi-clad woman giving him a massage. I mean, that's absolutely farcical. He is up to his neck in it, and I don't think he's a particularly nice person at all. I think it highlights massive problems.
Yeah, I think listen, he's been cancelled now. There's no two ways about it. Politically, he's had comeback after comeback. There is no comeback after this, and Peter Mandelson knows that completely.
Does he go to jail, Nige?
No, he will go to jail. I'm absolutely certain. Looking at everything that's there, he gave insider information on market-sensitive stuff that only he could know that would move markets, which could have meant that either Epstein or Epstein would have told other people about what was about to happen as far as the bailout in the Eurozone, which would have made people significant sums of money. I've got absolutely no doubt at all that he's facing jail now. Absolutely. So him losing his titles, it's the least of it. I thought a lot of a lot from Keir Starmer. But the reality is, within minutes of him saying that it was going to be the Cabinet Secretary that was going to decide what information we saw or didn't see, the Labour members of Parliament, and he's got a significant majority in the House of Commons, remember me, significant, it's a massive majority. They turned on him.
Stay there, Nige. Stay there. I want to bring Annunziata Rees-Mogg in, head of comms at Popular Conservatism. Annunziata, I don't think we've ever spoken, have we?
No, we haven't. Good morning. Lovely to speak.
You see, she's clearer. By the way, before anybody says anything, I've just had a text in, and it said, I tuned in to listen to Nigel Evans, and I think he looks like Bill Nye from Love Actually. He's laughing.
I'll take the money.
Annunziata, I've got your brother on in half an hour. I'll ask you something about him in a minute. But honest to God, so many people getting involved. Nigel's just had his say. How do you at Popular Conservatism look at what's happening? Because this is probably the biggest scandal to hit Britain politically since the Profumo affair, isn't it?
I think Profumo, and actually worse than Profumo. Profumo lied, but there wasn't corruption at the heart of government. And this is really highlighting quite how bad the corruption was. It was telling secrets to foreign powers. It was trying to influence British policy on the banks, the bankers' bonus tax. It was leaking when our Prime Minister was going to quit office. All of these are very, very deeply corrupt and at the very, very heart of our government. I think this investigation needs to go incredibly far because we don't know what other things it might have affected. Has it changed what's happening with the Chagos deal, for example? We know his fingerprints are all over that. And what happened with the meeting with Palantir that was off the books when Keir went over to America? We need to know exactly how far this rot goes, but at the moment it's looking very serious. I agree that Mandelson will end up in prison, and if it's not here, it will be in the US. That the material non-public information laws in America are very strong, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can be arrested and charged in America. Now, I think we've got to do it first here, because fundamentally this is a British problem. It has highlighted the complete distrust that this Labour government and its predecessors deserve. No wonder people don't trust politicians. They were right not to.
I couldn't agree more, and I think we would all agree. And I keep... Nigel knows this, and Annunziata, we haven't spoken before, but I keep going back to a text I had some weeks ago from a person who said, Jez, I've never really been switched on politically. I guess you'd call me as part of the silent majority, but I've woken up. And there's a word he kept using to me in the text, which was unfairness. And whether you talk about migrants and the whole situation. And he said, the problem for any government is that when the silent majority wake up, it doesn't matter the colour of that government, they're in real trouble. You know what I mean, don't you, Nigel? I think this government has managed in 18 months to do something almost worse than took the Tories 14 years. And people's trust, and Annunziata's right, is dissipating by the minute.
Yeah, no, by the second. And I wouldn't have been surprised if I'd woken up this morning to have read that Morgan McSweeney had been thrown under the bus. They've absolutely thrown Mandelson under the bus completely. He has now been cancelled by the Labour government. And I think Keir thinks that that's going to save him. But last night we saw something in the House of Commons I've not seen for quite some time. And that was that the Prime Minister went from the dispatch box saying that, oh, no, the Cabinet Secretary is going to decide what papers are going to be seen. And within an hour, the Chief Whip of the Labour Party was in discussions with the Chief Whip of the Conservative Party saying, well, we can amend the amendment that has been put down. A manuscript amendment was put down in the House of Commons, which was an emergency amendment to an amendment that the government had already put down to say that it's now going to be the Spooks Committee, as I call it. They are going to be the ones that decide what papers are now going to be revealed. I don't think Morgan McSweeney can survive, but putting him under the bus isn't going to be enough.
Well, it was interesting because he was asked about Morgan McSweeney, and I thought, like Nigel's just intimated, that he'd just go, what's it? But yet again, showing no political judgment at all. Starmer stood up and said, he helped me get elected, he's central to my team. And you'd have to say they'll probably go down together. And also, just very quickly, the view on the front bench, the realisation, I think, that these untalented people were about to be found out was a very good watch.
Their facial expressions were priceless. The whole of yesterday's debate, actually, I think was brilliant, and it was the House of Commons at its best. The Conservatives did an incredibly good job, a forensic job of making sure that the public can find out what's happened. And I think we need to extend that, because we've got to remember that Mandelson was at the very heart of the Blair government. Blair's government changed our constitutional settlement and undid a lot of our democratic rights. We've got to find out how much this has influenced our agreement with how we're governed, whether it's the Supreme Court, the European Court of Human Justice, kowtowing to foreign laws. We've got to make sure that all of this web, which is despicable, is undone.
Do you believe... very basic language, but do you believe that Mandelson will squeal if he goes down? Do you think he'll implicate others?
I think at this point he's got nothing to lose. He must have millions somewhere.
But not enough to pay for his boyfriend, now husband's osteotherapy course. I cannot... That everybody says, why do you keep mentioning? Oh, there's 8 million, which I've got from Epstein or other people, because I like a few quid. But my boyfriend, who's 50... It doesn't matter the age difference, who's now my husband, he can't afford a 12 grand osteotherapy course. What's going on there?
It's absolutely extraordinary. And it was never... I mean, I think it came out on Monday that he got $75,000 US. Someone like Mandelson was never going to risk their entire reputation for $75,000.
No.
The money will show us what's actually been going on, whether it's the contracts with the big banks or separate payments.
Do you think that others will? Do you think that others, whether he squeals or an investigation opens it, do you think others from high office might fall and suffer as well?
Well, we've already seen Gordon Brown trying to cover his own bag. I think we will find other Labour politicians trying to do the same, to rescue their reputations. And Mandelson himself has nothing to lose. Why wouldn't he?
Amazing. Nigel, as a overview of everything, and it is extraordinary, the feeling amongst the listeners this morning. You can also, it's palpable, you can feel it in the studio. We are on resignation watch because it'll take one to go and then it'll be like a house of cards and people are waiting for that. How long do you imagine are embattled? I mean, I say to you both what I've been saying all morning. It's on the front of this rag, The Guardian. You know you're in trouble, to be fair. How long do you think he's got, Nigel?
Hardly any time at all, because Angela Rayner started the ball moving yesterday by insisting that the Spooks Committee was the one that was going to do this. Don't forget, he's got a huge majority, a massive majority, and yet he was forced to climb down from Prime Minister's questions when he said absolutely that it was going to be the Cabinet Secretary that decided what papers were going to be revealed, and within an hour he had to change his mind. I absolutely think, and I never thought this was possible before the May elections, that Starmer could go. I now absolutely think that he's on the ropes, and that the machine is already moving, Jeremy. And Annunziata's got it absolutely right. It's lovely to see you, Annunziata.
Hello, and you.
Lovely to see you.
Look at me.
I've not seen you for quite some time. And I've not seen politics quite like this in my entire career. I think he's absolutely on the ropes. People are on manoeuvres, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the day, both McSweeney and him are gone.
Well, Annunziata, just to finish, that's a cooling thought. Nigel, don't go anywhere, it's brilliant. You do realise, and I think Nigel's right, we had this from Isabel, there's no definitive proof of this, but there will be meetings already that if he does get forced out, OK. And Nigel's nodding his head, Deputy Speaker, you would know there are meetings. I just be very careful as I say this, Annunziata. The interim Prime Minister of the United Kingdom will be David Lammy. And I would like to say, as I said about an hour ago, for any young people or people who have lost their job and aspire to achieving anything, if that man can be the Prime Minister even for 5 minutes, I think we can all achieve anything. That is, I mean, that we can laugh. How much of a sobering thought is that, Annunziata?
Well, fortunately, interims don't generally get to do very much, and there is zero chance the party will vote for him. But I think we've really got to be scared about what comes next, because I don't think Rayner will win. She's been embroiled in corruption herself. The last thing you want to do is replace a corrupt Prime Minister with another one, where Streeting's too close to Mandelson, basically leaves you with Miliband. 3 years of Miliband, we're in real trouble.
It's great to have you both on. And Annunziata, I know you won't mind. I have some bloke called Jacob Rees-Mogg on at 10 to 10 this morning. He said, if she's coming on, I'm coming on. Could you give me something that I don't know about your brother that I can put to him if he's beating me intellectually in an argument?
I've absolutely no idea. He is exactly what he seems, and a very good brother.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, tell somebody off air I need something. But listen, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. We'd love to have you on again, Annunziata. Thank you. And Nigel, or Bill Nighy. Lovely to have you both on. Thank you so much indeed. Talk Breakfast, 9:22. Back in 3.
And I'm one of those journalists, the many journalists who said it, that although it was a high-risk appointment bringing back Peter Mandelson, he would do a good job sucking up to Trump and getting a trade deal. And all the evidence is all the evidence is that in his 6 months he did that.
And I said quite the opposite, that it wasn't worth the risk and that he was damaged goods.
Yeah, but that's what a risk is. You know,
yes.
it might pay off, it might not pay off.
And it was it's worked out really well, hasn't it?
Exactly, it's exploded
but
all over everybody.
But it was always going to explode all over everybody.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. Thank you for tuning in. More people listening to Talk, the home of common sense than ever before. Good morning to Alison from Kent. Good morning, Jez. On the subject of throwing Mandelson under the bus, trust me, this is just the start. I think they're going to need a lot more buses. Hello to Matt in Wolverhampton, the Black Country mate. My question is, Mandelson gave details to Epstein. Who else did he give details to? He was named the Prince of Darkness. Which other dark forces have colluded with him? Diane is in Coventry. I bet most of the Labour MPs wish they'd done a vote of no confidence in the earliest of days. Starmer has now humiliated and made them look small. They reap what they sow. We can put that to my next guest. It's important for balance to get a view and somebody from the Labour side who is prepared to stick his head above the parapet, and respect to him accordingly. Graham Stringer, MP for Blackley and Middleton South. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
The front page of a Labour-supporting newspaper, the headline screams out, "It's over for Starmer, say Labour MPs, amid fury over Mandelson." It's all over, isn't it, Graham Stringer?
I think it's now a question of when, not if. In effect, by the Commons, including vast majority of Labour MPs, refusing to vote for the amendment that the Prime Minister put forward, although technically it wasn't. In fact, that was a vote of no confidence. And it's very difficult to see in a relatively short period of time how the Prime Minister can stay on after the shambles that was yesterday. The real question that Labour MPs have to answer is not just that the Prime Minister has made too many mistakes, which he has. It is how is he replaced and by whom?
Where do you sit on that? I mean, we had the Community Secretary Steve Reid on Sky this morning. I want to play this to you. He said, this isn't your Prime Minister's fault at all. Let's just listen to Steve Reid if we can, Graham.
All that's happened here, it's dreadful what has happened here, but Peter Mandelson lied not only to the Prime Minister, he lied to the Prime Minister's entire team. He's betrayed the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, he's betrayed 2 Prime Ministers, and he's betrayed the country.
So
now,
has he betrayed Morgan McSweeney? Is that what you're saying?
He lied to everybody. And now what people need to see the extent to which he lied, and that will happen as these documents are released so people can see.
Can you answer the question? Is Morgan McSweeney safe in his job?
Yes, of course he is. The problem when someone lies isn't that they lie to you, because there can be liars in any walk of life. It's what happens when you find out you've been lied to. And what the Prime Minister did months ago was contact Peter Mandelson at 5 a.m. in the morning and sack him on the spot from his job as US Ambassador.
Graham, I take it that you and a majority of colleagues on the backbenches don't buy what Steve Reid is saying.
There's 2 issues about the Prime Minister's judgment over the last 24 hours. One is how he dealt with the Commons. Everybody makes mistakes. Journalists make mistakes. Politicians make mistakes. He made a mistake in appointing Mandelson as the ambassador to the United States. He should have said at the beginning yesterday that he'd made a mistake. He knew what he knew, and it would have given the Commons and those Labour MPs who were going to support him an opportunity to say, well, he's fessed up. We know what's going on. And he's agreed to put forward the documents. In actual fact, he gave a victory to the Leader of the Opposition, who nailed him on whether he knew of the continuing relationship with Mandelson. And the Labour MPs didn't support or believe that we were going to get all the documentation around that. So in one very important debate, he failed twice.
I mean, it's really interesting. You described it as it's a grave error of judgment, but within the wider view, and I don't say this actually with any joy, because I respect, and I mean this, I utterly respect you, Graham, for coming on. I know you're a man that does your job for your constituents. You know, I don't mean this the wrong way. You're not one of them high-flying Islington lot. You're what I used to call a proper Labour MP. When you look, Graham, at this scandal, when you look at how U-turn after U-turn has impacted on the popularity of a party who 18 months ago got in with the biggest majority post-war, is this a Labour Party you recognise?
It's certainly a Labour Party that's changed. I mean, there's 2 questions there. a government shouldn't make as many mistakes as this government has made. I mean, people talk a bit about U-turns. I've wanted most of those U-turns. It's the original decision, the original mistakes that shouldn't have happened. And there comes a limit to how many mistakes a government can make and continue as it is. I think some of those mistakes show that they're not the priorities that previous governments would have made. If you take the Chagos Island, for instance, which is something that deeply annoys me, we're going to find, 35 billion to pay for something that we own. That's incredible. I don't believe that previous Labour governments would have done that. And if you come to one of the core issues that annoy Labour voters, the clue's in the name of the Labour Party. I think that everybody who possibly can deserves the dignity of work and to get a job if it is at all possible. This party announced, my party announced, I think last week, that we were no longer going to look at changing the benefit system in a way that would give people a better chance to get jobs. I think that a measure of any Labour government is how many people it can get into jobs and get off benefits. People want that, the public want that, and we're not doing it.
Is this Labour Party still the party for you? Have you thought about defecting to Reform, my friend?
I get asked that regularly on programmes because I agree with Reform on Europe and one or two other things. I don't agree with them fundamentally, the direction it's going, so there's no chance I would join Reform. And my party has changed. There are some of the policies that it has that I don't like. They're not the policies. For instance, cancelling local elections, I think, is embarrassing and outrageous. That's not something a Labour Party should be doing. But I joined the Labour Party, not agreeing with every policy it had and wanting to improve it, and that's still my position. If I left the Labour Party every time I disagreed with a single policy, I'd have left the Labour Party almost as soon as I joined it.
I know you well enough to know from your demeanour, you're a very honest guy, and that's why I said it. I genuinely mean that, but I can tell from your demeanour that things have changed immeasurably. Two questions for you, my friend. How long does Starmer last? You started by saying it's not if, it's when. How long does he last?
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to put a figure on that. I think the next crisis point for him is the Denton and Gorton by-election, Gorton and Denton by-election. But the real crisis point, I think, will come after the local elections if they're as bad as people expect. But I mean, predicting the future is a mug's game.
Yesterday, Angela Rayner, who had to resign because she hadn't paid stamp duty, led the charge. She stood up in a very controlled way and said that there should be more transparency with the release of those papers over the Mandelson debacle. There's no doubt that people are on manoeuvres. I haven't seen hide nor hair of Ed Miliband. To many on the right in this country, the thought of Miliband or Rayner is even more frightening than Keir Starmer. But it would be fair to ask you this. If not him, whom?
I don't know. I mean, it's a real dilemma. If you go through most of the contenders that you will know as well as I do, they've nearly all got away with the majorities. And it's not a good look for a leader of a party who's really, he or she is concerned about their own survival. So I think the Labour Party's got a genuine difficulty in who it chooses and how they choose them. If possible, we want to avoid the shambles that was the Conservative Party in the last government, where they kept changing the leader. The elections were chaotic, and they ended up with a historic thrashing in the last general election.
But you would be in agreement if I described him as a dead man walking.
It's not a phrase I would use, but I understand what you mean, yes.
Final question, which so many people, and the texting saying respect to Graham Stringer, because you represent your constituency, you're not sat in Islington. Here's a question for you. Nobody that listens to this, myself included, can understand how a man like Mandelson can have survived so many scandals and have survived for so long. Can I ask you a question? I think he's going to prison. On the way down, he presumably must have muck on everybody. Do you fear that he'll squeal and other Labour high-ranking people will be brought to task?
I don't think I can answer that, not because I'm avoiding it, because I don't know the answer. What I would say is he deserves due process like everybody. One of the disturbing things yesterday was that he was presumed guilty, and there's a lot of evidence that looks pretty bad, but the police are looking at it, and he does deserve due process. Whether any other senior figures in British society, including the Labour Party, are included, I don't know. I would have no way of knowing that.
Listen, it's an absolute pleasure, and I mean that. You know I respect you, and for people tuning in who are not Labour supporters, some are, you know, you had the decency to stick your head above the parapet, which very few people in the Labour Party have done, and I respect you for that, Graham. Thank you so much indeed. Graham Stringer MP, the Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South. When we come back, we'll give the list of those candidates in the Gorton and Denton by-election as part of the due process. Also, believe it or not, in the next 23 minutes, we've got Lord David Frost, former Brexit Minister, and also Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. We're back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it, 20 minutes to 10? Julia here from 10. Ahead of that, Lord David Frost, a Brexit negotiator, now the Director General of the Institute of Economic Affairs. We've also got Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, just to confirm those candidates in the Gorton and nearly Denton by-election. Nick Buckley, Advance UK. Charlotte Cadden, we spoke to earlier, for the Conservative Party. Dan Clark is standing for the Libertarian Party. Matt Goodwin for Reform UK. Sebastian Moore for the Social Democratic Party. Joseph O'Meara for Rejoin the EU. Jackie Piercy for the Liberal Democrats, Hannah Spencer for the Green Party, Angelica Stogia for the Labour Party, Hugo Wills for the Communist Leads, and Sir Oinkalot for the Monster Raving Loony Party. I know. It's on February the 26th. We say a very good morning. Lord David Frost, we just said it off air. Yeah. This is extraordinary, because all morning we're on resignation watch. People are all having an opinion, and the audience are like on tenterhooks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, British politics delivers moments of drama like few other countries. And when you saw PMQs yesterday, when you saw the debate, when you saw the government with a majority of nearly 200 on the back foot, you know, something very odd is happening, and I'm sure we're going to see that play out in the next few days.
I'd love to talk about economic affairs, but I'm not going to, because it's just a story that's going on and on. I mean, actually, economically, one of the reasons I think this government is in so much trouble is because it's screwed our economy and small businesses, and has instigated things that have really destroyed so many parts of, you know, the attacking farmers, small businesses, NI increases, all that sort of stuff.
Totally.
And that's why this man has to go cap in hand to the Chinese, which is extraordinary, isn't it, for a human rights lawyer. Right.
They've got on this,
because they've messed our economy up.
They've got on this awful kind of inverse virtuous circle where, you know, they crush the economy, it raises fewer taxes, so they have to raise tax rates to try and get more money. That crushes the economy still further, and they can't get out of this. And I was watching Rachel Reeves sitting next to Starmer yesterday on the front bench, and she looks like somebody who is at the end of her tether and knows that things are going downhill fast.
Well, I mean, I'm not an economist, but I mean, she's out of headroom despite tax rises, and in basic terms that my old girl used to talk me about, you know, debit and credit. If you're paying out 120 billion a year in interest on debts you can't pay,
that's right,
there's no money but to tax hard-working people, whilst you're allowing people into this country for free who have a better life. And then, worst of all, you suddenly find 35 billion under the sofa to give away a piece of island that we own.
That's right. I mean,
Am I missing the point there?
We're borrowing, you know, getting on for 150 billion a year, and most of that just pays for the interest on the existing borrowings. You know, this cannot carry on much longer. We can't raise
and might that
tax.
be a way that the Labour Party falls, this government? Actually, the financial institutions do a Liz Truss and throw the towel in?
Well, I mean, it might happen. It might happen. I'm not sure. I think sort of more slow decline is much more likely. Everything getting gradually worse. Everybody's feeling worse off. The economy starts to shrink, and you know that just sort of plays itself out. And of course, you're right. It is the backdrop to what's going on. If the economy was going up at 2.5%, 3%, people would be feeling a lot better about things.
Well, the Bank of England are downgrading growth today, I've just heard.
That's right. That's right. And I'm not surprised. I mean, everything the government is doing makes growth worse. So why would they not?
Absolutely extraordinary. Just briefly, and the economy, I think you're dead right, isn't going to get any better, and we seem to be in this doom loop, surrounded by politicians who either don't... I look at that front bench, David, and I think there's just no experience, there's nothing, right? Mandelson, do you know him?
I've met him a few times, so I wouldn't say I know him, really.
Can you explain to me how a man who's been done for dodgy loans, dodgy passports, almost everything dodgy... I think the most interesting thing is, I'm going to buy an £8 million house, but my boyfriend at the time can't afford 12 grand for an osteopathy. Forget the seedy side of the relationship. The accusation, and it is an accusation, that he sent emails detailing government policy is nigh on treasonable in my mind, and I think he'll go to prison. My question to you is, if he does go down, do you think he'll squeal and others will be implicated?
Well, I mean, it would be a pretty extraordinary thing to try a former minister for what is it, misconduct in public office. We won't have seen anything like that.
But I mean, if he's done that, that's what he'll be tried for.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the truth is he probably isn't the only minister who's leaked information over the years. And if I was his defence lawyer, that's what I would be trying to focus upon. So you're right. This is, you know, this would be an extraordinary event, but unfortunately, this sort of thing is more common probably than people like to
really
think. Where do the newspapers get their news from?
Yeah, but sending it, I mean, you add in this whole murky, you know, paedophile, Epstein, money, privilege.
Of course.
He's out of what I want to know is, and I'm not asking you about, but he must know where the bodies are buried. I think this, I mean, Brown's already moved to cover his backside, hasn't he, to be honest? I mean, where does this go? How does, you know, yesterday I thought Starmer had a golden opportunity to deflect and get rid of Morgan McSweeney as Chief of Staff. Well, he tied himself straight to him.
He did.
That's both of them screwed.
He did, and you know, when the advisor becomes the story, then you know usually it's his end game for that.
Dominic
advisor.
Cummings.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem Starmer's got is he can boot his advisor, but then people start thinking, well, you know, you're the guy who appointed him. All the feelings about misjudgment then focus on the leader, and he knows that.
How long do you think he's got?
I think he will be gone at some point this year. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ruin in a Prime Minister, and I lived through much of the sort of decline and fall of Boris when people predicted disaster day to day and it didn't happen. But
does this point to, does this is a good question actually, does this in any way in your mind put what Boris was guilty of at a slightly lower level? Is there an insignificance now about a piece of cake?
I mean, of course, it was always confected by that large part of the Conservative Party that didn't like Boris Johnson and wanted rid of him. He was brought in, they reluctantly put up with him to do a job. Together we got Brexit done mostly, but after that they wanted rid of him. And I think one of Boris's problems was that he didn't realise how much a lot of people really hated him.
Is the same perhaps true now, that that Starmer, the human rights lawyer with no emotion and seemingly no plan, was used as a public or acceptably public face of Labour to get them elected, and actually there will be those on the left wing who will be glorifying in this moment, led by perhaps Angela Rayner on yesterday from the backbench?
I think so. In a way, Starmer was brought in to purge the party of Jeremy Corbyn and anti-Semitism and all of that, and he's probably done as much of that as he possibly can. Now he's become dispensable, and I thought yesterday when I was watching in Parliament, I thought, I'm no expert in the Labour Party, but I can recognise human behaviour, and I thought the confidence had cracked.
Well, I thought there's a great, it's on one of the papers, I think the Mail, with the amazing Quentin Letts, who I love.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Quentin put, punctured perhaps beyond repair, Sir Keir deflated before our eyes, Kemi kept bayoneting him from Labour MPs, a cold, sinister silence.
That's right. It's the silence, the unwillingness.
It looked like the end, didn't it?
Yeah.
It looked like the end. But then, I'm sorry, I'm not outspoken deliberately, but he's signed his own death warrant. At 15 U-turns. I put this to you. You were there for the Boris era. Just doesn't seem to have the DNA to put his finger on the pulse of any part of the nation that he's supposed to be managing. And some of the decisions are so patently wrong to anybody with a brain cell that you think, how did you get there?
Yeah. I mean, Prime Ministers need two things. They need a strategy they can explain to people. What sort of country are you trying to build? Where do you want to go? And he's bad at that. And nowadays, you need to be able to connect to some extent emotionally. It isn't enough to describe. You've got to kind of empathise. And he's not very good at that either. So you can survive if you've got one of those things. If you haven't got either of those things, then you've got a problem, I think.
He was bayoneted, according to Quentin, and I agree, skewered by Kemi Badenoch. You're still a Tory.
I'm not actually. I'm non-party now.
Well, non-party?
Yeah, so I'm not actually a party member.
Do you agree with me? I think Kemi Badenoch smacks of William Hague, right person, wrong time.
So I campaigned for Rob Jenrick when the election was.
Are you going to sign for reform?
I'm non-party now, and there's a job to do at the IEA, so that's what I'm doing for now. I think Kemi, showing signs of being quite good in Parliament now and getting PMQs right and saying some of the right things on the economy. That's definitely true, but I don't know that.
Let's put it in basic terms. The British public stopped listening to the Tories after 14 years, and I think they're going to make them serve their time in opposition for a while. Is that probably?
This is the problem. Much of the party has not come to terms with the failures in office. I'm not sure that Kemi kind of really gets this either. And
Reform will say that the criticism of Tories moving over to Reform, Suella Braverman and Jenrick, the critics will go, it's the Tory party 2.0, that the Reform Party would say, well, those two at least resigned from their positions in that government because they weren't happy under Sunak and it wasn't doing what it said it was going to do on the tin.
That's right.
I think it's interesting you say you're independent now because of the IEA. Fascinating times politically.
Yes. Absolutely. The right
fascinating.
The right and the left are fragmenting at the moment. Nobody quite knows how this is going to play out in the next couple of years. The range of possible outcomes in politics got a lot larger as well. We could have a hard left
the Green Party. Zach Polanski running at 18%.
Yes.
They want to charge everybody 70% tax, and they believe that you should. Somebody asked him the other day, how would you deal with the Ukraine-Russia war? Did you hear what he said?
I would leave
I just get a
NATO
plane
and
over to Russia and go up to Mr. Putin, I'm sure he's a reasonable man, and ask him to put down his nuclear weapons. I mean,
look, he knows nothing about how the world actually works. That's true. But then Jeremy Corbyn had very naive views of international affairs as well, and he nearly won the election.
Do you know, I said the other day, David, I don't know whether this is genuinely true. There is no part of anything that Jeremy Corbyn ever said that I'd agree with. But there's this grudging admiration for a man who printed the madness that he believed in, stood by it, and got more votes than Keir Starmer. More votes than Keir Starmer.
He did.
And Starmer ended up with a 180 majority. And I think the biggest crime for Labour now, for me, is that he patently didn't have any plan whatsoever. They had plenty of time to plan for it. And I think that he's proven that the Labour Party, sadly, cannot be trusted in power at all.
I think Corbyn was the first politician to tap into the fact that lots and lots of people in this country are unhappy about the way it's being run, and they're right to be unhappy, in my view. That's why he got so many votes. Starmer doesn't think that, I don't think. I think he thinks there's nothing really wrong with this country that sensible Labour ministers can't put right, and he thought that simply by being in power and being there, things would magically get better, and they haven't, and he doesn't understand why it's all going so wrong, and that's at the root of his
that's what I really struggle with, though, because I can't work out whether he's I'm being completely honest, so thick that he doesn't get it, has such appalling advisors, or just doesn't have it in his DNA. Because I go back to it, how would you on day one want to alienate 10 million pensioners by saying we're going to make you cold? In the thing, how would you say to your farming community who provide food for your economy, we're going to screw you whilst we search for our net zero madness, which, by the way, is going to bankrupt us even more?
No, I mean, this is where not having a story comes out. If you've got a story that says, look, the country's in a bit of a mess, we're all going to have to help to get us out of it, that's one thing. To sort of randomly pick on groups that you don't like and appear to punish them is the absolute worst way of doing this, and yet that's what they've tried, and that's how people feel about them.
And also let groups down that you've looked in the face and said everything will be absolutely fine, don't worry about it, I'm going to support the farmers, I'm going to support all of that, when actually that's complete, well, excuse the pun, BS.
Yeah, I mean, the farmers is particularly bad because they gave an explicit promise they wouldn't do it, and then went ahead and done it anyway. And that's how much trust one should place in their manifesto generally.
After the IEA, final question, Lord Frost, it's so good to see you. Ever think about politics again, or are you done?
I never predict the future. I think once you get the political bug, you're always in politics, but there's a big job to do at the IEA. It's a great organisation, and for the time being I'm focusing on that.
It's great to have you on. Lord David Frost, former Brexit negotiator and current Director General of the Institute of Economic Affairs. Thank you so much indeed. Almost 10. So Julia here from 10 o'clock. We're on Resignation Watch at Talk, and thank you for tuning in. More of you listening to the home of common sense than ever before. Official records, audience data told us that yesterday. Julia from 10. We're just going to keep an eye on this. Is anybody going to crack in Labour? Any front benchers going to resign? It happened to Johnson. Will it happen to Starmer? A dead man walking, according to many. Morning, Stuart.
Great show, everyone there. And well done, Jezza. It's great. Let me just have one thing. I've got one thing to say. Calamity Lammy actually does become interim Prime Minister. And then, obviously, Milliband takes over, Millipede takes over. Does that mean that Lammy will still get protection for the rest of his life? Police protection for the rest of his life? That would be such a cost to this country as well. Anyway, great show. Interesting day. Thanks.
This is the Political Asylum, current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
We're with you every weekday night, Monday to Friday, 7 until 10 p.m, right here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Margaret in Yorkshire says, Jeremy, Graham Stringer is the first Labour MP that I have been speaking common sense to. Poor man looks fed up. Good morning to Suze, who says, Jez is an ex-dyed on the wall, lifelong Tory voter, now reformed. Graham Stringer is the first Labour politician I could have voted for. Just to apologise, Jacob Rees-Mogg has just sent me a message. Sorry not to join your programme this morning, Jez. Your cameraman went to the wrong place. There's been some problems with the weather. Nobody can stand anywhere. Jacob, don't worry about it. The GCHQ round as well. It's awful out there, but it's nice and bright and sunny because the First Lady of Westminster is gracing me with her presence.
I think cosy and warm in here.
How are you,
and
love?
Dry, crucially dry. Yeah, I'm just still reeling from yesterday. I couldn't get over. PMQs was explosive. Everything that's happened since, even more so. I think I genuinely. Keir Starmer's doing a speech in an hour or so about unity.
Yeah, 800 million.
I mean, 800 million.